Chapter 1090. The immortal Tao inheritance is really different from the wild fox Zen. Zhang Xiaohua looked at the entire square and sighed. Venerable Fiery Dragon is considered an expert of his generation, but compared to the Misty School, he is really poor. At that moment, Zhang Xiaohua almost wanted to take everything in the Misty School for herself. This Tao inheritance, isn't it much more orthodox than Venerable Fiery Dragon's? However, Zhang Xiaohua shook her head and chased away this greedy thought. The Misty School had a close relationship with her and was also her second brother's sect. This Tao inheritance would definitely be her second brother's inheritance in the future. She had no reason to snatch it away. No matter how important Tao inheritance was, it couldn't be compared to kinship. Zhang Xiaohua looked around and saw a few steps similar to the one she had taken to ascend the square. She guessed that these were the other forbidden areas of the Misty School. At this moment, Zhang Xiaohua's divine sense could only reach 10 feet. Looking at the quiet square and the huge mountain rock above the square, as well as the luminous pearl embedded in the rock, Zhang Xiaohua smiled. She then used her flying skill and was about to fly towards the end of the square when she realized that flying skills were also restricted in the square. Helpless, Zhang Xiaohua could only use her ethereal steps and her qing gong to fly toward the end of the square. At the end of the square was a majestic palace, similar to the Huayu Palace. Walking to the front of the palace, there was a huge plaque above the palace door. On it were 3 simple ancient words, Misty Palace. The Misty in these 3 big characters was different from the Misty on the decorated archway outside the Misty Villa. It was more lively and less weathered. It gave people a feeling of being high and mighty. As Zhang Xiaohua had a deep impression of the Misty on the archway, when she saw the Misty on the Misty Palace, she couldn't help but stop and savor it carefully. After a short while, Zhang Xiaohua sighed and thought to herself, different cultivations, different states of mind, different experiences. This word is also different. But no matter what, this word is still Misty, and the meaning it conveys is the same. Instantly, Zhang Xiaohua understood. No matter if it was the Misty School, the Incense Cult, or the Shindao sect, they were all celestial sects. Even Venerable Fiery Dragon's orthodoxy was a small branch of the celestial Tao. Perhaps their paths were different, but their goals were the same. Then, what is the goal that all the sects are pursuing? Zhang Xiaohua couldn't understand. She had always been immersed in comprehending the heavenly Tao and cultivating the Carefree Heart Sutra. She felt that the heavenly Tao was the goal that she wanted to pursue. But now that she thought of others, she couldn't help but feel lost. Forget it. Who would know about such things in the current state of the celestial Tao? If I had a master or something, I could still ask. But now, I'll just walk my own path. Zhang Xiaohua raised her head again and looked at the 3 words Misty Palace. Raising her head, she walked past the plaque and stepped into the palace. The Misty Palace was very grand, and the decorations inside were even better than the Huayu Palace. But at this moment, the palace was quiet and desolate. Looking around the entire palace, there was nothing special. Zhang Xiaohua came to the front of the screen at the top of the palace. Behind the screen, there were 2 corridors, one on the left and one on the right, leading to 2 places. Zhang Xiaohua pondered for a while and chose the corridor on the left. At the end, there was another stone wall with a stone door. Using her divine sense, she didn't find any restrictions on the stone door. Zhang Xiaohua pushed the door open and entered. Behind the door was another mountain path, which also led downwards. Zhang Xiaohua frowned. She had been walking down the mountain path for a long time. If she went further down, where would it lead to? Sure enough, after she walked down the mountain path for a long time, she saw a huge space. But this space looked very rough and even simple. It was completely different from the Misty Palace. On the stone wall of this space, there were about a dozen caves of different sizes, all of which were covered by stone doors. Zhang Xiaohua seemed to have thought of something. Smiling, she pushed open a stone door. The stone door opened, and what came into view was an earth fire, a futon, and a shelf with jade bottles. This was the Misty School's alchemy room. Haha, I knew it. The Misty School also needs alchemy. This place is deep underground, and there are caves in the stone wall. What is it if not an alchemy room? Zhang Xiaohua was very proud. She walked in and took the jade bottle on the shelf. As expected, it was empty. Then she walked to the earth fire and used her divine sense to scan it. She waved her hand, and a light yellow flame appeared. Zhang Xiaohua injected a few more spells into the flame, and the flame gradually turned blue and then green. Ha ha ha, Zhang Xiaohua laughed. That's good. With this earth fire, the promised second brother is settled. But I don't know. With this thought in mind, Zhang Xiaohua closed his eyes for a moment, as though he was pondering something. Following that, the fingers on his left hand moved, and he injected a few unfamiliar seals into it. The earth fire, which had already turned blue, rose up high with a tongue sound. However, it gradually dimmed. But just as it dimmed, the flames within it gradually turned white. As the color of the flames changed, the temperature around the earth fire began to drop. Furthermore, on the stone platform beside the earth fire, white snowflakes gradually formed. Wow, this is amazing. This ice fire is really powerful. Since it's fire, it can even freeze the surroundings. If I didn't get the spells of this ice fire from Abbess Jingang's jade slip, I would never believe it. Zhang Xiaohua smacked her lips and waved her hand. The flame on the earth fire slowly turned green, and the surrounding temperature slowly rose. The white ice flowers turned into water droplets and condensed on the stone platform. After a while, the water droplets disappeared and turned into gas that disappeared in the air. Immortal Tao. Oh, Immortal Tao, it's so mysterious. Zhang Xiaohua sighed. I didn't expect that refining the meridian soothing pill requires yang fire, and refining the soul intimidating pill requires ice fire. I wonder if there's yin fire? Then what kind of elixir is it refining? With that thought, Zhang Xiaohua waved her hand and took out an 8 trigrams purple gold cauldron from her belt. She wanted to place it above the earth fire. However, the moment the cauldron appeared, before Zhang Xiaohua could release her hand, the cauldron in midair trembled slightly and emitted a faint buzzing sound. Zhang Xiaohua was surprised. When she looked carefully, she realized that the cauldron she took out was the cauldron she had obtained from the fragrance cult's mountain peak. It was not the cauldron that had been merged between the clouds and the water underground. Could it be that the Misty School has a similar cauldron? Zhang Xiaohua looked at the similar scene between the clouds and the water and was pleasantly surprised. After that, Zhang Xiaohua did not hesitate. She walked out of the cave with the huge 8 trigrams purple gold cauldron in her hand. As soon as she walked out of the cave, the 8 trigrams purple gold cauldron felt like it was flying out of her hand. Zhang Xiaohua's eyes were about to turn into crescents as she followed her intuition and walked inside. Zhang Xiaohua pushed the door open and entered the third elixir room from the back. It was a similar elixir room as the previous one. However, there was no shelf in the place where there should be a shelf. Zhang Xiaohua looked around and felt a little strange. She used her divine sense to scan the room, but she still did not find it. Did I enter the wrong place? Zhang Xiaohua was very puzzled. However, the cauldron in her hand trembled even more violently. Zhang Xiaohua could feel the excitement of the cauldron. Could it be here? Zhang Xiaohua followed the direction of the 8 trigrams purple gold cauldron and came to the front of the stone wall where the shelf should be. She reached out and touched the stone wall. The stone wall did not seem to exist. Zhang Xiaohua's hand sank into it. Ha ha, it's actually here. Zhang Xiaohua laughed and stretched her head out. Sure enough, behind the stone wall, where her divine sense and the naked eye could not detect anything strange, there was another flight of stairs leading downwards. She walked all the way down. Sure enough, after walking for the time it took to brew a cup of tea, what appeared in front of Zhang Xiaohua was an empty space about 10 feet wide. On that empty space, there were 6 cauldrons that looked like the 8 trigrams purple gold cauldron in Zhang Xiaohua's hand. The shape of these 6 cauldrons was very strange. They were not the kind of circle between the clouds and the water. Instead, they were shaped like spoons. Without waiting for Zhang Xiaohua to approach, the 8 trigrams purple gold cauldron in his hand flew out with a whoosh sound. The 6 cauldrons on the empty space vibrated at the same time and flew into the air. The 7 cauldrons gathered together and spun rapidly. Just like what happened between the clouds and the water, the 7 cauldrons collided and merged into one. 7 8 trigrams purple gold cauldrons merged to form a new 8 trigrams purple gold cauldron. 49 8 trigrams purple gold cauldrons merged to form 7 8 trigrams purple gold cauldrons. What is the use of these 7 new 8 trigrams purple gold cauldrons? Zhang Xiaohua looked at the 8 trigrams purple gold cauldrons floating quietly in the air and could not help but feel a little puzzled. Looking at the positions where the 6 8 trigrams purple gold cauldrons were placed, Zhang Xiaohua's heart stirred. She waved her hand, and the 6 8 trigrams purple gold cauldrons flew out from her belt and landed in the same 6 positions. Buzz, 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 buzz. The 6 8 trigrams purple gold cauldrons vibrated at the same time in response to the cauldron in the air. As the cauldron in the air vibrated, it established an inexplicable connection with the other 6 cauldrons. This connection kept twisting among the 7 cauldrons. With the twisting of the connection, the cauldron in the air gradually descended and slowly landed at the spot where the 6 cauldrons formed the handle of the ladle. Bang! The cauldron landed, and the 7 cauldrons immediately stopped vibrating. The space was silent. However, without waiting for Zhang Xiaohua to make a move, the 7 cauldrons flew into the air at the same time with a whoosh sound. They maintained the same shape and vibrated at the same time again. In her divine sense, each of the 7 cauldrons separated a stream of heaven and earth yuan qi and gathered in the air. Like a mountain spring, it gushed upwards and through the stone wall and the layer of soil above. It went straight into the air. Not long after, the heaven and earth yuan qi gradually dissipated. A stream of 7-colored light fell from above and divided into 7 streams according to the color. It went straight into the 7 cauldrons. Bang! The 7 cauldrons fell to the ground at the same time, and there was no more movement. Please cast a monthly vote, a recommendation vote, a collection, a tip. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to cast a recommendation vote or a monthly vote. Chapter 1091. Seeing the 7 alchemy furnaces fall to the ground, Zhang Xiaohua did not go up. She only waited not far away, quietly waiting for the magic to happen. However, the magic seemed to have ended. Zhang Xiaohua waited for half a cup of tea's time, but the 7 alchemy furnaces did not move at all. There is only a vague connection between the 7 alchemy furnaces. Zhang Xiaohua waved her hand, and the nearest alchemy furnace flew into her belt. There was no change in the other 6 furnaces. Is the show over? Zhang Xiaohua smiled. She took out the alchemy furnace again and immersed her divine sense in it. She found that there was no change from before. There must be a change. It's just that I can't find it. Zhang Xiaohua thought. She kept the 7 alchemy furnaces into her belt. Looking at the empty ground, she walked up the stairs and returned to the alchemy room. After crossing the stone wall, Zhang Xiaohua still did not give up. She used her divine sense to check carefully. There was no fluctuation of primordial qi on the stone wall. She could see with her naked eyes that it was also a stone wall. It was exactly the same as the surrounding stone walls. When I saw the money bag at the ferry, I also encountered such a magical illusion array. However, that illusion array had a trace of primordial qi. But this illusion array in front of me has no trace of primordial qi. I don't know what method is used. Zhang Xiaohua was very puzzled. If not for the previous alchemy furnace, I wouldn't have been able to find this place. Then, Zhang Xiaohua looked through all the alchemy rooms. Except for this alchemy room, which was a little strange, the other alchemy rooms were ordinary. In all the alchemy rooms, the jade bottles were empty. There was not a single elixir. It's strange again. Zhang Xiaohua, who was used to picking up leftovers, muttered in her heart. Why is there not even a jade slip? Coming out of the alchemy room, Zhang Xiaohua followed the mountain path to the back of the ethereal palace. Opposite her was the corridor that led to the right. The end of the corridor was a little different from the end behind her. Facing her was a stone door carved out of white jade. Although it was the same stone door as the entrance of the ethereal palace, Zhang Xiaohua felt a sense of familiarity at first glance. Could it be? Thinking up to this point, Zhang Xiaohua could not wait any longer. He pushed open the jade door. Sure enough, there was a not very big hall behind the jade door. There were countless luminous pearls on the walls, illuminating the entire hall. In this hall, other than the white jade carved stone table and stone chairs, there were some dispensable curtains. Zhang Xiaohua, all the furnishings in this hall were, and some dispensable able curtains. Of all the furnishings in this hall, that was familiar. Yes, it was the hall carved out of white jade that Zhang Xiaohua saw on Lingering Fragrance Peak. It was also the white jade hall where Zhang Xiaohua met Wan Wuxin. Could it be? This hall is also carved out of white jade? Having confirmed this guess in her heart, Zhang Xiaohua naturally looked at the wall of the hall. On that wall, there were indeed 3 portraits. The portraits were of Yu Mingxin, Wan Wuxin, and Yang Haoya. The difference was that Yang Haoya's portrait was placed at the top. Similarly, beside the 3rd portrait of Wan Wuxin, there was a blank space. Presumably, there used to be a portrait of the founder of the devil cult, Di Shirtian. This Di Shirtian is really powerful. He went a Lingering Fragrance Peak, Summer World, and even the forbidden area of Spreading Fragrance Cult. But why did Di Shirtian take away his own portrait? Could there be something strange about it? As Zhang Xiaohua thought, she looked around the entire hall to see if there was anything she could take away. What is this? When Zhang Xiaohua saw a pillar in the Jade Hall, she unconsciously stopped, because she had already observed 2 halls that were exactly the same as this Jade Hall. She knew the furnishings inside like the back of her hand. Therefore, she saw that on the originally smooth jade stone pillar, there was an extra palm-sized recessed area. Her heart was flabbergasted. Carefully walking to the front of the jade stone pillar, Zhang Xiaohua carefully looked at the recessed area. This was a recessed area with distinct layers of protrusions at the edges of the recessed area. On the flat surface of the recessed area, there was also a slight pattern that was depressed. Seeing that there was no fluctuation of vitality and nothing unusual, Zhang Xiaohua stretched out her hand and used her fingers to slowly touch the pattern in the recessed area. The feeling from her fingertips clearly told Zhang Xiaohua that this pattern was very familiar. Where have I seen this pattern before? Zhang Xiaohua used her finger to aimlessly circle the recessed area as she carefully recalled. Zhang Xiaohua had been to the other 2 jade rooms before. After carefully recalling, those 2 jade rooms definitely did not have such a recessed area, let alone similar patterns. Could it be the rough tablet at the bottom of Lingering Fragrance Peak? Zhang Xiaohua thought to herself. That rough tablet was the only thing that Zhang Xiaohua had set her mind on, but she had no chance to keep it. That's not it either. Zhang Xiaohua carefully thought again and eliminated the possibility of it being the rough tablet. Is it this one? When Zhang Xiaohua's gaze fell on the recessed area, she immediately thought of the pile of things she found in the floating mound peak, Heaven and Earth Hall, and Treasure Pavilion. Wasn't the token that she found in the Heaven Pavilion a square shape? As she thought about it, Zhang Xiaohua took out the square-shaped token from her money pouch. When she held the token in her hand, the raised pattern on the token told Zhang Xiaohua that her luck had once again exploded. Sure enough, this token fit perfectly into the recessed area of the jade pillar. Moreover, the moment the token was placed on the jade pillar, the entire pillar began to shine. The pattern on the token floated up from the token and gradually rotated. As it rotated, the pattern grew larger and larger. In the end, the pattern left the token and completely wrapped around the jade pillar. It was like a dragon coiling around the pillar and dancing up and down. In just a moment, the pattern that had transformed into a dragon had completely wrapped around the entire transparent pillar. Suddenly, it lit up again, so bright that Zhang Xiaohua naturally closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, the pillar in front of him had already disappeared. In the place where the pillar used to be, there was a large hole, and in the hole, there were stairs that led down. So I have to go down again. Zhang Xiaohua sighed, but her heart was blooming with joy. Needless to say, There must be something good in this hole. After going down the stairs, she was faced with an identical jade pillar. The token was also embedded on the pillar. Zhang Xiaohua looked back at the extremely high stairs and raised her hand to take down the token. Sure enough, the stairs behind her gradually became transparent and then slowly disappeared, leaving only a jade pillar standing there. Going around the pillar, Zhang Xiaohua saw a small door in front of her. After passing through the small door, there was a rather large space. In the middle of the space, there was an extremely delicate palace standing there. Yes, there was a delicate feeling to it. This palace was much smaller than the ethereal palace. But whether it was the roof or the walls, they were all carved with patterns. The patterns were exquisite and smooth, giving people a pleasing feeling. Even on the door of the palace, there was a small plaque with the same handwriting as the words on the ethereal palace, Heritage Pavilion. Ha ha ha! Seeing this, Zhang Xiaohua was overjoyed. After searching for so long, wasn't it just these things? Zhang Xiaohua stepped in without hesitation. Just as her foot stepped into the palace door of the Heritage Pavilion, a layer of faint purple light flashed and blocked her front. Like a flash of lightning, a light flashed and attacked Zhang Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohua was shocked. He hadn't encountered any formidable restrictions along the way, but he hadn't expected it to appear here. Before Zhang Xiaohua could even think about it, the light had already struck him. At this moment, a profound fluctuation suddenly appeared from the four-cornered command token in Zhang Xiaohua's hand, and it moved forward to meet the light. As soon as the light touched the fluctuation, it immediately vanished. The light purple brilliance flickered a few times before vanishing without a trace. Sweat. Zhang Xiaohua wiped the sweat on her forehead and gripped the four-sided token even tighter. The Heritage Pavilion was a three-story building. The first floor was very spacious, with only a portrait of Yang Haoye hanging on the wall. In front of it was a table with some sacrificial items. Below the table were some praying mats. Presumably, these were used by the Misty School's disciples when worshipping Yang Haoye. Zhang Xiaohua walked to the table and bowed. She whispered, "Senior Yang, Immortal Paths, Disciple Zhang Xiaohua greets you." Disciple took the Carefree Heart Sutra from your Misty School and stepped onto the path of immortality. Disciple has an inseparable attachment to the Misty School. Disciple doesn't know if the Carefree Heart Sutra is an original cultivation technique from your Misty School. If it is, Disciple will find an opportunity to return the Carefree Heart Sutra to your Misty School. If it isn't, then Disciple owes Misty School a favor. In the future, Beta School and Misty School will support each other and advance and retreat together. Of course, my second brother is the current sect leader of your Misty School. Even if the Carefree Heart Sutra belongs to your Misty School, I can't fight with my second brother for the position of sect leader. Please understand, Senior Yang. Senior Yang's legacy in the Misty School could be said to be a disaster. Now that it has just recovered, I hope that Senior Yang's spirit in heaven will bless the Misty School and my second brother, Zhang Xiaohu. After he finished speaking, he bowed 3 more times before getting up and turned to look at the stairs leading to the second floor. This was the Misty School's legacy pavilion, so it must contain the legacy cultivation techniques and secret manuals of the Misty School. Since Zhang Xiaohua had already decided to leave these cultivation techniques to Zhang Xiaohu, he gave up on the idea of going up to take a look. However, when he retracted his gaze from the stairs and was about to leave, he suddenly had a thought. I'm being too pedantic. That white fog in the Misty School's forbidden area prevents even Abbess Jing, and the elders from entering. I only relied on the innate divine restriction in my Naiwan palace to escape the divine sense attack. Second brother is just an ordinary martial arts expert. If I let him in, who knows how long it'll take for him to enter. I can't bring him in every time, can I? If I can't find a way to enter and exit the forbidden area, not only will second brother not be able to obtain the legacy, but the Misty School will also continue to decline. With that thought, Zhang Xiaohua turned around and went up to the second floor of the Legacy Pavilion. Please cast a monthly vote, a recommendation vote, a bookmark, and a tip. Chapter 1092. Upon reaching the second level of the Hall of Inheritance, Zhang Xiaohua was dumbfounded. His mouth was agape, and his saliva was almost dripping onto the floor. He had thought that the Misty School's inheritance would attract people, but he had never thought that it would be this attractive. The entire second level of the Hall of Inheritance was filled with rows of shelves. The shelves were made of an unknown material and looked similar to ordinary wooden shelves. Even the stripes on the shelves were similar. When he touched them, he could feel that they were cold and tight. On the shelves, there were jade scrolls of different colors and shapes arranged neatly. What moved Zhang Xiaohua the most was that the shelves on the second level were divided into different sections. On each section of the shelves, there were faint red words. They were respectively cultivation method, pill refining, array. And in the last section, there were actually words, magical equipment. And on the shelves, there were different types of magical equipment. However, these Dharma artifacts all had powerful restrictions on them. When Zhang Xiaohua first saw Venerable Fiery Dragon's orthodoxy, he already felt that it was inconceivable. It was like a pie falling from the sky. But when compared to the jade scrolls in front of him, that pie was too small. The difference between the clouds and the mud can't be mentioned in the same breath. This was Zhang Xiaohua's only thought. I'm rich. Zhang Xiaohua muttered in his heart and complained weakly. Second brother, why did you have to be the sect leader of the Misty School? There are so many good things, but as your biological brother, I can only look at them and can't take them away. Since I can't take them away, why did I come up? Zhang Xiaohua was secretly regretting. He then forced himself to look away from these tempting magical equipment, and in a flash, he came to the array section. It was as if the magical equipment had a weakness that he was afraid of. What Zhang Xiaohua did not expect was that in the innermost section of the magical equipment section, there was an even smaller shelf. This shelf was placed with the most powerful restrictions, and on the shelf, there were faint red words. Those words were magical equipment. Zhang Xiaohua arrived at the array formation area. There were several shelves in this area, and there were many jade slips on the shelves. However, unlike magic tools, these jade slips did not have restrictions placed on them. Zhang Xiaohua rolled her eyes and muttered, Second brother, I'm doing this for your own good. I'm only looking at these formations because I want to find a way for you to come in. I don't know where the way to break the illusion formation is, so I'm only looking at the jade slips one by one. You know that I've always been smart and have a photographic memory. I'm going to look at all the formations in your Misty School and remember them all. Don't blame me. Hee. Zhang Xiaohua was also very cute. At this moment, he was the only one here. Even if he did not tell Zhang Xiaohu about the situation here, how could Zhang Xiaohu know about it? If that was the case, O Peng would have already obtained the succession. Moreover, even if Zhang Xiaohua took away all the inheritance jade slips in the inheritance pavilion, who would know? Well, even if he took a step back and took a few jade slips, only the heavens and earth would know. Yang Haoya's portrait downstairs would know. Zhang Xiaohua had done this countless times in the incense cult, the Dalan temple, and between the clouds and the water. However, at this moment, when he thought about how these jade slips were his second brother's inheritance, he did not have any intention of taking them for free. Even if he wanted to take a second look, he would have to find a lame excuse. Fortunately, after more than half a day, Zhang Xiaohua looked at several jade slips and memorized the Misty School's secret array, and so on. Only then did he discover the method to break the restriction. Picking up the jade slip that contained the method to break the restriction, Zhang Xiaohua looked at it carefully again before reluctantly putting it back on the shelf. He sighed and was about to leave, but when he turned around, he suddenly saw a purple jade slip beside the jade slip that contained the method to break the restriction. Zhang Xiaohua also saw it just now, but he did not pay much attention to it. Now, he inadvertently saw that there was a purple jade hairpin beside the purple jade slip. The jade hairpin and the jade slip were placed side by side, very close together. The color was also the same. If he did not walk closer to take a closer look, he would not be able to tell and would think that it was one with the jade slip. Why does it look the same as the purple phoenix hairpin? Zhang Xiaohua was slightly stunned when he saw the jade hairpin. He walked over and took it in his hand. This is a magic weapon. Why is it placed in the cultivation method area? Thinking of this, Zhang Xiaohua also took out his purple phoenix hairpin from the money bag. Sure enough, the male and female purple phoenix hairpins were exactly the same as the purple phoenix hairpin. Strange, besides the male and female hairpins, is it possible that there is also a little cub? Zhang Xiaohua scratched his head in confusion. However, when Zhang Xiaohua's divine sense entered the jade slip, he suddenly realized that although the purple phoenix hairpin had the fluctuation of vitality, there was no restriction. When his divine sense entered, it was actually a jade slip that was refined in the shape of a purple phoenix hairpin. It was not a magic weapon. No wonder. It was placed in the cultivation method area. Zhang Xiaohua nodded slightly, but the contents of the jade slip immediately made Zhang Xiaohua very surprised. What do you think? The jade slip in the shape of the purple phoenix hairpin recorded the usage of the purple phoenix hairpin. Moreover, the contents of the jade slip were obviously more detailed than the jade slip that Zhang Xiaohua had obtained from Jinggang Nun. It even described the subtle differences between the two purple phoenix hairpins. This, the purple phoenix hairpin of the Chuanxiang cult. Even they don't know the sacrificial refining method so clearly. How could the Misty School have it? Could it be that the Chuanxiang cult took the purple phoenix hairpin from the Misty School? Zhang Xiaohua thought to herself, oh, that's not right. The purple phoenix hairpin was taken from Jinggang Nun's two precious disciples. There is no jade slip that contains the sacrificial refining method. The jade slip in Jinggang Nun's hand does not specifically record the usage of the purple phoenix hairpin. It contains the usage of other magic weapons. Presumably, Jinggang Nun herself does not have the detailed refining method. It can't be that the Chuanxiang cult does not have it. It's just that. However, after thinking for a while, Zhang Xiaohua could not figure out the reason. Perhaps there was some so-called karma behind the purple phoenix hairpin. Zhang Xiaohua did not hesitate and put the jade slip away. Anyway, the Misty School did not have any purple phoenix hairpins. What was the point of keeping it? It was better to make the best use of it and let her use it. And it could also be considered as comforting Zhang Xiaohua's hurt feelings. After that, Zhang Xiaohua left the jade slip and walked to the side of the stairs. She raised her head and looked at the stairs leading to the third floor. She was a little hesitant, but in a moment, Zhang Xiaohua walked up the stairs. She had already seen the first 2 floors of the Hall of Inheritance. Why would she care about the third floor? When she reached the third floor, Zhang Xiaohua was a little puzzled. The third floor was empty. There was only a futon in the middle. There was nothing else. Could it be that the third floor was robbed? Was it all moved away? Zhang Xiaohua muttered to himself and slowly walked to the side of the futon. He had forgotten that he had done this kind of shady business many times in the past. The praying mat was also ordinary and nothing special about it. However, when Zhang Xiaohua raised his head and looked above the praying mat, he gasped. Dear esteemed guests, what do you think Zhang Xiaohua saw? A sky, a resplendent night sky. It was like a child looking up at the night sky on a summer's night to count the stars. In Zhang Xiaohua's mind, the Hall of Inheritance was a 3-story palace. Although it was unusually exquisite, it was still just a building. Besides the roof, what else could there be? He only raised his head occasionally. But when he saw the starry sky above the futon, he knew that he was wrong. He had underestimated the means of immortals. Although the roof of the Hall of Inheritance was extremely far from the stone wall, the immortal seniors of the Misty School had countless means to show the starry sky above the roof. But Zhang Xiaohua looked for a while and felt that something was wrong. It should be afternoon now. How could there be a night sky? Moreover, the stars in the night sky were divided into 5 regions. It was different from what they usually saw. Most importantly, the stars in the night sky were resplendent, but the stars in the night sky were very dim. If not for Zhang Xiaohua's good eyesight, he would not have been able to see them. Strange. What's this for? Zhang Xiaohua scratched his head. But when he looked down at the futon at his feet, he slapped his forehead and exclaimed, I'm so stupid. The Hall of Inheritance. The Hall of Inheritance. Isn't it used for passing down inheritances? The first floor is for worshipping Yang Haoya and commemorating the founder. The second floor is for jade slips and Dharma artifacts to pass down the Misty School's techniques and arrays. Then what about the third floor? Of course, it's the place for passing down inheritances. No wonder the stars in the sky are dim. It must be because the items used for passing down inheritances have no energy left. With that thought in mind, Zhang Xiaohua naturally released his divine sense, wanting to see what the starlight was. Once his divine sense was released, Zhang Xiaohua realized that there was no restriction on divine sense on the third floor of the Hall of Inheritance. Zhang Xiaohua's divine sense rushed out like a waterfall. When he saw the stars in the night sky clearly, he nodded his head slightly. The dim stars were none other than piles of primordial stones. Looking at the 5 colors, this should be the 5 elements primordial stones. Sigh, what a pity. I don't know what Yang Haoya was thinking that day. In the misty peak of the Misty School, there are no jade mines nor any dragon veins to support it. So he could only use his own primordial stones to set up arrays. Look at this array. It's similar to the one under the jade mines of the Fragrant Cult. But the array is reversed. It should be an authentic spirit-gathering array. I think the Dalan Temple, the Xindao sect, and the Fragrant Cult also have places for passing down inheritances. It's a pity that compared to the other sects, the Misty School is congenitally deficient. This Misty Peak is not a paradise, and it doesn't have abundant primordial energy of heaven and earth. So, after thousands of years of inheritance, it has become a dilapidated place. Now, it can no longer pass down its inheritance. It has long forgotten about the way of immortality and has degenerated into a martial arts sect. It's even worse than the Righteous Alliance. Zhang Xiaohua shook his head as he carefully memorized the spirit-gathering array. Previously, he had seen a similar array on the dragon veins of the Fragrant Cult. But that array was reversed, and the primordial stones were hidden in the void. This was not something that Zhang Xiaohua could do with his current cultivation. Seeing a ready-made spirit-gathering array, how could he not learn it? After Zhang Xiaohua memorized the array, he withdrew his divine sense. Suddenly, his heart moved and he thought to himself, "That's right, the Misty Peak is not a famous mountain or river. There's also no defense that can be relied on. It's just close to... Yes, here." At this time, Zhang Xiaohua's heart was clear. He vaguely felt that the Misty School's mountain gate here should be related to the Immortal's mansion in Yaoshan. But why not directly open it in Yaoshan? This was not something that Zhang Xiaohua could know. The way of immortality is indeed unpredictable. Even choosing a mountain gate is also very particular. In the territory of the Fragrant Cult, there is the Huanshu where the Earth's core is refined. In the territory of the Misty School, there is also an Immortal's mansion. But what is the Xindao sect between the clouds and the water? That's right. Is the Buddha's space in the Dalan Temple considered an ancient ruin? Zhang Xiaohua thought to himself as he walked down the hall. When he arrived at the jade pillar, he placed the 4 tokens back into the indent. With a flash of light, the pillar began to turn transparent. The inscriptions on the pillar began to rotate. In front of him, from top to bottom, the stairs began to appear. When the stairs were in front of Zhang Xiaohua, the jade pillar became transparent and disappeared. He walked up the stairs and came to the jade hall. The pillar was also faintly discernible in the air. Zhang Xiaohua reached out and took out the token. The hole under the pillar disappeared, and the entire jade pillar gradually turned to stone. Finally, it returned to the jade pillar that he saw earlier. Such a magical array. If not for this token, even if I racked my brains, I would not have been able to go underground. No wonder. Zhang Xiaohua sighed and quickly walked through the corridor and returned to the alchemy room. After the time it took to eat a meal, Zhang Xiaohua's face was slightly pale. In his hand, he held a small ingot-shaped jade token and walked out of the alchemy room with a smile. When he reached the Jade Plaza, he casually found an exit and walked in. The restriction was like the white fog in the alchemy hall. It still attacked the divine sense and was still an inexplicable illusory array. However, When Zhang Xiaohua took out the ingot-shaped jade token, the jade token emitted a faint fluctuation that gradually matched the fluctuation of the entire restriction. As far as the eye could see, the white fog had disappeared, and so had the illusion. In front of him was a smooth mountain path and a few skeletons. When Zhang Xiaohua walked to the end of the mountain path, there was a small stone door. He pushed it with his hand and came to a huge hall. There were tables and chairs in the hall. Looking at the hall, Zhang Xiaohua found that it was different from the underground ethereal palace. There was no fluctuation of primordial qi. Looking at the ceiling and the lines on the stone walls, Zhang Xiaohua understood that this should be the inside of the ethereal peak. There were a few small doors at the side. Zhang Xiaohua scanned with his divine sense and knew that there were ordinary stone rooms behind the stone doors. Looking forward, in front of the hall there was a mountain path. Countless torches lit up the mountain path. His divine sense went through the winding mountain path and kept moving forward. Zhang Xiaohua could not help laughing. At the end of the mountain path was a small door. Outside the door, there were dozens of men from the Misty School and dozens of tables. It was the meeting hall of the Misty School. Zhang Xiaohu was accompanying Li Jian and Lu Qingyang to welcome them. Please cast a monthly vote. Please cast a recommendation vote. Please collect. Please tip. Thank you. Chapter 1093. In the meeting hall of the Misty Mountain Villa, Zhang Xiaohu was sitting at the first table with Li Jian, Lu Qingyang, and the others. Du Feng, Ding Chao, and the others were also sitting at the other tables. Perhaps the people at the table were their elders, but there were talented people in every generation. At this time, the time belonged to Zhang Xiaohu and the others. At this time, how could the disciples of the Misty School think so much? Escaping from death, recovering all their martial arts, and returning to the Misty Mountain Villa. A year ago, this was something that they would never have dreamed of. Now, they were drinking in the meeting hall. It was like a dream. How did all this come about? Everyone who was drunk unconsciously looked at the humble leader of the Misty School who was sitting at the head of the table. At this time, Zhang Xiaohu's face was also red. It seemed that he had drunk a lot. However, Lu Qingyang did not intend to let him go. Lu Qingyang raised a big bowl and put it in front of Zhang Xiaohu. He grinned and said, "Zhang Xiaohu, I didn't expect you to be the leader of the Misty School now. Come. Not only do I have to congratulate you on becoming the leader, but I also have to thank you for your grace. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I would still be lying on the chair." With a wry smile, Zhang Xiaohu raised a small wine cup and clinked it against the large bowl in front of him. He said, "Ancestor Lu, this disciple really can't handle alcohol. Plus, I don't dare to ask for a toast from you. Everything your disciple has done is for the ethereal sect and for everyone. Don't ever mention anything about gratitude." At this point, Zhang Xiaohu was suddenly stunned. He turned his head and asked, "Master Li, Master Lu, and the others, when they entered the villa, didn't they sit on the chairs?" Li Jian was also stunned. His slightly red face also showed an awkward smile. He said, "Leader Zhang, please forgive us. Because we haven't returned to the Misty Mountain Villa for a long time, we were too excited and forgot about it. I'm afraid Ming Qing and the others will notice." After thinking for a while, Zhang Xiaohu said non-committally, "In the square this morning, they suffered a setback and are thinking of countermeasures. Maybe it's normal that they didn't notice." Wenhai, who was beside him, also felt regretful. He nodded and said, "I hope so. Ming Qing and the others have never interacted with the Misty School's disciples. They probably don't know the exact situation of Master Lu and the others. What's there to be afraid of?" Lu Qingyang gulped down a large bowl of wine and belched, "I've long found a fragrant religion to be an eyesore. If they find out, I'll directly kill them. Let me release all the grievances I've accumulated over the past few years." "Old Five," Li Jian scolded, "if Abbess Jing Yi discovers that something is amiss, the one who will be in trouble is clan leader Zhang. Moreover, our Misty School will be attacked from both sides. Master Li is right. Right now, our Misty School's strength is still weak. we still have to rely on Ming Qing and the other fragrant religion disciples. We can't turn our backs on them for the time being. Zhang Xiao nodded and said, however, even if Abbess Jing he finds out that Master Li and the others have recovered their martial arts, she'll definitely investigate the reason. However, if she wants to talk about dealing with our Misty School, I'm afraid she won't. Yes, clan leader Zhang's words are reasonable. Shui Qing, who was beside him, blushed and said with a smile, I heard that Abbess Jing announced at the martial arts convention that she would send our Misty School out of the fragrant religion and support our Misty School's recovery. If she were to deal with our Misty School, wouldn't that be going back on her words? Even if the people of Jianghu didn't say anything, she wouldn't be able to live with it. While they were talking, a disciple of the Misty School hurried in and stood in front of Du Feng. He lowered his head and said a few words. Du Feng frowned and waved his hand to dismiss the disciple. He then walked to Zhang Xiaohu and said in a low voice, Clan leader Zhang, a disciple reported that a 7-colored brilliance descended from the sky and sprinkled on our Misty Peak. That disciple was afraid that his eyes were playing tricks on him, so he asked the patrolling disciples. 30% of them also saw it. Did anything happen on the Misty Peak? Zhang Xiaohu was puzzled and asked. No. The patrolling disciples checked the Misty Peak briefly and just returned. They didn't find anything unusual. However, Du Feng hesitated and said, however, I feel that this 7-colored brilliance is somewhat similar to the one in the northwest. Is it the brilliance that often appears in the northwest these few nights? Zhang Xiaohu asked. I don't know. It's just a guess, Du Feng said respectfully. Yes, perhaps it's an auspicious omen that the heavens have specially given to our Misty School for the revival of our Misty School. Zhang Xiaohu said with a smile. As he said that, he gestured for Du Feng to return to his table. Zhang Xiaohu raised his cup and stood up. Everyone, I just received a disciple's report that a 7-colored auspicious light fell on our Misty Peak just now. I believe that the heavens must be welcoming all of you back. It's also an omen that our Misty School will prosper. Come, let's drink to the prosperity of our Misty School. Everyone was excited and raised their cups. To the Misty School. Cheers! In the secret chamber, Zhang Xiaohua saw that her second brother was so relaxed and at ease. She smiled and made a hand gesture to escape from the Misty Peak. After determining the direction, she flew straight to Guozhuang House. A few days passed. At noon on this day, several horse carriages were traveling on the official road to Pingyang City. They could see Pingyang City from afar. On the second horse carriage, the driver raised his head and looked at Pingyang City in the distance. He shouted, Xiaohua, is this Pingyang City? Yes, big brother. This is Pingyang City. A voice came from the first horse carriage. The person who answered was the tall and thin young man. Wasn't this person Zhang Xiaohua? Zhang Xiaohua shaded his eyes with his hand and looked around. He smiled and said, Brother, we'll reach Pingyang City in half a meal's time. Ha. Zhang Xiaohua shook the reins, and the horse carriage caught up with Zhang Xiaohua. He said, it's actually so far from Guozhuang House to Pingyang City. Back then, you and Xiaohu, it really wasn't easy. Yes. Zhang Xiaohua sighed and said, it's already been 6 years. Thinking about it now, it seems like it was just yesterday. Then, she jumped up and stood at the front of the horse carriage. She turned around and looked at the few horse carriages behind her. She smiled and said, Father, disciple, drive carefully. We'll reach Pingyang City soon. I know. It's not my first time driving. It's okay. This was Zhang Kai's voice. Yes, master. I know. This was Xiaohua's voice. Master. A voice came from Zhang Xiaolong's horse carriage. Lu Qian helplessly carried Zhang Byron out and said, Xiaohua, stop for a while. Byron wants to go to your horse carriage. When Zhang Xiaohua stopped the horse carriage, Lu Qian sent Zhang Byron up the horse carriage. Xiao Wang and Xiao He came out from the carriage cover. When Zhang Byron saw them, he immediately smiled and reached out his small hands to grab them. The 4 horse carriages followed the official road and came close to Pingyang City. Then, they turned and went to Ethereal Heights. When they were close to Huanxi Heights, Zhang Xiaohua jumped off the horse carriage and said, "Father, mother, big brother, wait for a moment. I'll go and take a look first. Go quickly and come back quickly." Guo Sufei jumped down from the horse and looked at the unfamiliar place and instructed. "Yes, mother," Zhang Xiaohua said and walked to a hidden place. She turned around and disappeared. In the time it took to smoke a cigarette, Zhang Xiaohua turned back with a waist token in her hand and said, "Let's go, mother. Second brother is already waiting in the villa. However, he's afraid of attracting attention, so he didn't come out to welcome us." "Well, then let's go in quickly." Guo Sufei heard and looked a little nervous. She looked around as if someone was staring at them. Zhang Xiaohua led the 4 horse carriages to a gate of ethereal heights. She showed the waist token to the guard and drove the horse carriages to the front of a yard. In front of the yard, Zhang Xiaohu was waiting with Chang'e and Chen Shun. Oyin and Xiutong were also there. However, Oyin had an inexplicable matter with Zhang Xiaohu and Chang'e on Lingxiang Peak, so at this time, they looked a little embarrassed. Seeing this, Zhang Xiaohua stopped the horse carriage and jumped down. She jumped in front of Oyin and saluted, "Greetings to Miss O and Sister Xiutong." Seeing this, Oyin didn't dare to neglect and quickly returned the salute. She even complained, "Xiaohua, when did you become so polite? Just call me Sister O." Hee. Seeing that Huanxi Heights is still the same as before, I unconsciously thought of the past and called you Miss O. Sister O, don't blame me. With that, Zhang Kai, Guo Sufei, and others also got down from the horse carriage. Seeing this, Oyin quickly left Zhang Xiaohua and walked over to greet them. "Greetings to uncle and aunt." Seeing an elegant woman coming over to greet them, Zhang Kai and Guo Sufei were at a loss. They hurriedly returned the salute and didn't know how to address her. Zhang Xiaohua quickly came over and said, "Father, mother, this is Miss O, who I told you before. She is very good to me. Huanxi Heights is Miss O's." "Oh, Miss O?" Zhang Kai and Guo Sufei were stunned. In their impression, Miss O was the person with the highest status. They immediately panicked and wanted to salute, but didn't know how to do so. They were afraid that they would lose their son's face if they saluted too much, but they would be laughed at if they didn't. Seeing this, Oyin hurried to help Guo Sufei and said with a smile, "Don't listen to Xiaohua's nonsense. Miss O is for outsiders. When Xiaohua was here, I asked him to call me sister. If Aunt doesn't mind, you can call me Oyin directly." Guo Sufei was a little flattered. She looked at the ethereal villa, which covered a large area, and then looked at the small courtyard with carved beams and painted pillars. She was a little embarrassed. "Villa head O? Aunt," Oyin said with a wry smile. "Although I live in Huanxi Heights now, Huanxi Heights is the property of the Misty School. It has always been under the control of the gang leader's wife. Previously, my eldest brother gave Huanxi Heights to me because he loved me. Now my eldest brother has passed away. I have no relatives in this world, and gang leader Zhang is in charge of the Misty School. Huanxi Heights will naturally be under the control of Chang'e. How can I still be the villa head? Please vote monthly. Please vote recommendation. Please collect. Please tip. Thank you." Chapter 1094. Guo Sufei couldn't understand the reason, but when she heard that Oyin was alone in this world, her eyes turned red. She felt that this noble was also a pitiful person who was inferior to her. She stretched out her hand and held Oyin. "Poor child. Alas, then I'll call you Oyin." Oyin was happy and said sweetly, "Auntie, that's the best." Guo Sufei turned around and said to Zhang Xiaohu, "I don't know too much, but Oyin wants to stay here for a day. You don't drive her away." Zhang Xiaohu smiled bitterly and said, "Mother, Miss O is the younger sister of the previous leader of the Misty School. Even if I want to drive her away, my master, grandmaster, and my disciples won't allow it." Then he said hesitantly, "As for the ownership of Huanxi Manor, it's too early to talk about it. Miss O." Oyin smiled and said, "It's just a matter of time. Don't you think so, Chang'e?" Chang'e and Oyin were familiar with each other. At this time, Chang'e blushed and didn't know how to answer. Yin turned and saw Lu Qian and Zhang Xiaolong. She couldn't help but smile and said, "This is Brother Zhang and Sister Zhang." Then she went forward to greet them and asked Lu Qian, "Sister Zhang, why is your skin so good? You look much younger than me." Hearing Yin praise her youth, Lu Qian was happy and said to Yin with a smile. Zhang Xiao next to them didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Yin was Peng's younger sister, and Zhang Xiaohu was Wen Hai's disciple. This generation gap was 2 generations. This was one of the reasons why Chang'e couldn't answer just now. But Yin was Brother Zhang and Sister Zhang. So wouldn't it be messed up? Zhang Xiao didn't think so much. When he entered Huanxi Manor, he called Qiu Tong and Yin elder sister. At this time, he saw that Yin was very close to his family, so he was happy. Seeing Qiu Tong looking at Yin with a smile, she hurriedly went over and bowed. "Long time no see, big sister Qiu Tong. How is everything?" Qiu Tong smiled and said, "Good, good, very good. I even went to your little house yesterday." "Ah, big sister Qiu Tong, don't tell me you still want me to stay there." Puffed. Qiu Tong laughed and said, "Of course not. You're now gang leader Zhang's younger brother. We can't wait to flatter you. How could we dare to let you stay in that small house?" Later, led by Yin, she took Zhang Xiaohua and the others to a separate small courtyard and said with a smile, "After gang leader Zhang told me a few days ago, I asked the servants to clean this courtyard. It is close to the ethereal villa and separated from the other places in the Huanqi villa, so it is convenient for gang leader Zhang to come and visit. I wonder if uncle and auntie are willing?" Before Guisu Fei entered the small courtyard, she was first attracted by the beauty of the small courtyard and said repeatedly, "Great, great. It's much more beautiful than our Guizhuang house. I'm happy, happy." Seeing this, Yin smiled like a flower and said, "Since auntie is happy, I'm relieved. Because gang leader Zhang told us to keep it a secret, no one will disturb us in the future. Today, Xiao will have to move by herself." Then she said to Zhang Xiao, "Gang leader Zhang, I won't disturb you. If there's anything, please tell me as soon as possible." After that, she saluted and left. After Yin left, Guisu Fei said with emotion, "Miss O is really a kind person. She has such a noble identity, but she is so kind to us. Xiaohu, you have to be nicer to her in the future." Mom, Zhang Xiaohu's face was slightly red. He looked at Chang'e, who pretended not to hear it, and complained, "What are you talking about? I'll be nicer to Chang'e and Chun Chun. Why do you involve Miss O?" Guisu Fei said curiously, "I didn't say anything. I just asked you to be nicer to her in the future." What does it have to do with Chang'e and Chun Chun? Well, the more she said, the less clear it was. Zhang Xiaohu simply stopped talking. He rolled up his arms and moved the things in the 4 carriages one by one into the courtyard with Zhang Xiaohua, Zhang Xiaolong, and Ji Xiaohua. Of course, with Zhang Xiaohua, who had infinite strength, the other 3 were just doing small things. When the big things were moved in, Guisu Fei found that there was everything in the several rooms in the small courtyard. Alas, it gave Zhang Xiaohua a headache again. Under the command of her mother, she moved all the furnishings in the room. After putting all the things brought from the Guizhuang house into the room, Guisu Fei led Zhang Xiaohua out. In the yard, under the grape trellis, Mr. Liu and Zhang Kai had already sat on the stone chairs. The tea set had been placed on the stone table. Zhang Xiaolong and Zhang Xiaohu were accompanying them and chatting leisurely. In the corner of the small courtyard, there was a clear small pond, a few lotus leaves, and a few small fish, which attracted Zhang Bairen and Ji Xiaohua to watch over them carefully. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua come out, Zhang Xiaohu poured a cup of tea and handed it to her. He smiled and said, "You're finally done?" "Of course." Zhang Xiaohua took the cup and drank it up. She complained, "I was busy inside. Why didn't you help me? Do you have any humanity?" "Hee, big brother, I wanted to help, but you could lift the cabinet with one hand. Big brother and I couldn't lift it together. If we went inside to help, it would only hurt our pride. So, it's better to accompany father and Mr. Liu. Is it necessary?" Zhang Xiaohua put down the cup and smacked her lips. She said, "Father, this tea is just SOSO. All right, wait a minute." As she said that, She took out a small stone from her pocket and walked to the kitchen. Looking at the water tank, she threw the stone in and said, "Big brother, don't touch the stone in the water tank. It can make the water taste good." What? Who can make the water taste good? How could Zhang Xiaolong believe it? If you don't believe, you'll know when you drink it tomorrow. Zhang Xiaohua said, "Disciple, remember, don't throw the stone away when you're cleaning the water tank." "I know, master," Ji Xiaohua answered from afar. "I remember now. Xiaohua, is that stone the same as the one you gave to Byron?" Zhang Xiaolong suddenly realized. That's right. What's the lesson in it?" Zhang Xiaolong asked curiously. Big brother, it's better if you don't know about these things." Zhang Xiaohua looked at Zhang Xiaohu and shook her head. She said, "Maybe second brother Su only knows a little about it now." Zhang Xiaohu quickly waved his hand. "Don't pull me, I don't know anything." "Is that so?" Zhang Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. She said, "I don't believe that your Misty School doesn't have any immortal teachings." Zhang Xiaohu heard this and smiled bitterly. He said, "Misty School is a great sect that has immortal teachings. This is already recognized in Jianghu. How can I not know?" But sect leader Ode died suddenly, and martial uncle Zhang Qingyue also passed away early. Regarding the inheritance, only the two of them know about it. Even my master doesn't know the details. "Is that so?" Zhang Xiaohua pondered for a moment and said with a smile, "What if I teach you the inheritance of your Misty School?" Zhang Xiaohu was stunned and immediately became ecstatic. However, he still couldn't believe it. He said, "The inheritance of my Misty School is in my Misty Mountain Villa." How do you know?" Second brother, did you forget? After helping you capture Wang Dong that day, I had nothing to do and went to your forbidden area." You went to the forbidden area?" Zhang Xiaohu was shocked and suddenly realized. "That rainbow light that day, was it you who made it?" You also saw that rainbow light?" Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. "Yes. At that time, I was in your forbidden area. It was also in that forbidden area that I found the Misty Palace and the Inheritance Pavilion." There really is the Misty Palace? There really is the Inheritance Pavilion? Zhang Xiaohu believed it. He grabbed Zhang Xiaohua's arm and said, "I heard from my master that there is something about the Misty Palace and the Inheritance Pavilion in the legends. I didn't expect it to really be in the Misty Peak. It's unimaginable, unimaginable." Then he asked, Can I go and take a look now?" At this point, without waiting for Zhang Xiaohua to speak, Zhang Xiaohu was scared. His martial arts had not reached the peak of martial arts and was far from the immortal path. He didn't even know if he could enter the forbidden area. Zhang Xiaohua thought for a moment and said with a smile, "The inheritance of the Misty School is yours. Why can't you go? It's just that is the inheritance of the immortal path. If you can't step into the immortal path, the things inside are useless to you." "My own?" Zhang Xiaohu murmured. "Although it's useless to me, can I take a look?" "I also want to take a look." Zhang Xiaolong interrupted. "No." Zhang Xiaohu refused. "Big brother is not a disciple of the Misty School. He can't enter the forbidden area of the Misty School and can't see the inheritance of our Misty School." "But Xiaohua is not a disciple of the Misty School. He entered the forbidden area and saw the inheritance." Zhang Xiaolong laughed. "Xiaohua is different. He will be an elder of the Misty School in the future. He has the right to see it." Zhang Xiaohu said, "Don't, second brother. I don't want to be an elder of the Misty School." Zhang Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand. "If you become an elder of the Misty School, you can establish a beta school in the future. The Misty School can also support you." Zhang Xiaohu said with a smile. "Support?" Zhang Xiaohua laughed. "The inheritance of your Misty School was given to you by me. You have a nerve to talk about support." Zhang Xiaohu became thick-skinned and said, "You are my brother. It's natural for you to give me things." Then he said, "Let's go. Let me take a look at the inheritance of our Misty School. Although I can't use it, it's still okay to let me see it." Okay." Seeing that it was still early, Zhang Xiaohua got up and said, "Do you know the small door behind the Ethereal Heights Conference Hall?" "I know. Martial Ancestrally already told me that it's the place where the Misty School holds confidential meetings. How do you know? The moment he asked, Zhang Xiaohu regretted it. His younger brother had even gone to the Legacy Pavilion. Knowing such a small secret was probably nothing much. Please vote monthly. Please vote recommendation. Please collect. Please tip. Thank you. Chapter 1095. After hearing Zhang Xiaohu's rhetorical question, Zhang Xiaohua's face was full of disdain. She curled her lips and said, "Forget it. You're Misty School now. What secrets do you have for me? You're all so naked." "Father, you see," Zhang Xiaohu immediately turned to Zhang Kai and said, "Xiaohua has learned bad things. She even said such things." Zhang Xiaohua didn't expect her second brother to complain about her. She looked at her father and Mr. Liu and felt embarrassed. However, Zhang Kai didn't think much of it. He glared at Zhang Xiaohu and scolded, "You only want to find 2 wives for yourself. Don't you want Xiaohua to have some thoughts? Xiaohua is also in her prime now. What's wrong with saying such things?" Then he turned to Mr. Liu and asked, "Mr. Liu, do you think I'm right?" Zhang Xiaohu was dumbfounded. He wasn't surprised by his father's love for his younger brother, but Zhang Kai's prime really made goosebumps rise on his arms. He looked at Zhang Xiaohua and saw that she was also cold. Only Zhang Xiaolong was calm, as if he had been tested for a long time. "In law, you're right." Mr. Liu stroked his beard and acted like a good teacher. He smiled and said, "Although Little Blossom is 18 or 19 years old, he still looks young. This flower season and rainy season is used wonderfully." Zhang Kai said proudly, "It's all thanks to Mr. Liu's influence." "You flatter me, you flatter me." Mr. Liu laughed. Zhang Xiaohua saw this and quickly rubbed her hands. She couldn't be bothered to attack her second brother. She urged, "Are you going or not? If you don't want to go, then forget it. When I have time, I'll tidy up the place. Everything will belong to my Beidou school." Zhang Xiaohu jumped up and grabbed Zhang Xiaohua's hand. Let's go, let's go. I can't wait to see it." Zhang Xiaolong's face lit up with joy as he said, "I won't go in. I'll keep a lookout. How about that?" "No," Zhang Kai and Mr. Liu said in unison. "Xiaolong, stay here and make us tea." "Yes," Zhang Xiaolong said with a bitter expression. Zhang Xiaohu and Zhang Xiaohua walked out of the courtyard. Zhang Xiaohua made a hand seal and entered the ground, while Zhang Xiaohu hurried back to the meeting hall. When he arrived at the secret chamber behind the meeting hall, Zhang Xiaohua was already waiting there. Zhang Xiaohu had no choice but to ask, "Where is it?" "That small house." Zhang Xiaohua pointed. "Let's go." Zhang Xiaohu took a step forward, wanted to go over. "Don't rush, second brother," Zhang Xiaohua said as she took out a jade talisman shaped like an ingot and handed it over. She said, "Take this. Without this, you'll die if you go in." "Ah." Zhang Xiaohu was stunned. He said, "Can't you bring it in?" "I'm not sure, but you should take it. In the future, when you want to come, you can come by yourself. You don't have to drag me along." "Oh, okay." After listening to Zhang Xiaohua's words, Zhang Xiaohu understood that this was his younger brother telling him the way to enter the forbidden area. In the future, he could come at any time. In other words, his younger brother was handing over the inheritance of the Misty School to him. Zhang Xiaohu took the jade talisman and scolded with a smile. "One look at this thing, and I know you're a money grubber." "Hee, I like this shape." Zhang Xiaohua laughed. After that, Zhang Xiaohua led the way and led Zhang Xiaohu into the forbidden area. As she didn't know what dangers Zhang Xiaohu would encounter in the forbidden area, Zhang Xiaohua specially put the Crimson Spirit protection on top of her head to protect both of them. Unexpectedly, this jade talisman was very magical. It was as if Zhang Xiaohua was holding it herself. The path in front of Zhang Xiaohu was unobstructed and there were no attacks. Therefore, after taking a few steps, Zhang Xiaohua put away the Crimson Spirit protection. Looking at the incomparably huge jade square, Zhang Xiaohu was completely dumbfounded. He was even more greedy than Zhang Xiaohua. His saliva dripped onto the ground. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, he finally shut his mouth and licked his dry lips. Trembling, he asked, Is is this an ethereal peak? Who cares where it is? Second brother, as long as it already belongs to you, it's fine. Zhang Xiaohua laughed. She finally felt a little better after making a fool of herself yesterday. Moreover, she was looking forward to seeing Zhang Xiaohu's expression next. Indeed, Ethereal Palace, Jade Hall, as well as the steps and jade pillars leading to and from the Pavilion of Legacy, left Zhang Xiao dumbfounded again and again, until they reached the entrance of the Pavilion of Legacy. Zhang Xiaohu almost thought that he was in a dream. Xiao, I'm not dreaming, am I? Zhang Xiaohu looked at the beautiful Pavilion of Legacy hesitantly and murmured, "Easy, pinch your own thigh or slap yourself in the face," Zhang Xiaohua said with a grin. Zhang Xiaohu rolled his eyes at Zhang Xiaohua. Play along with the mood. It's not like I've never seen the methods of immortals before. Just now, it seems like some descriptions of legends. Second brother is right. Perhaps the things in legends are seen from the immortals' magical powers. Because of this, it becomes a legend. Sigh, I don't know if Leader O has been here before. Zhang Xiaohu sighed and was about to go up. Wait, second brother. Zhang Xiaohua hurriedly pulled him back and handed over the four-sided token. You have to use this token to enter the Pavilion of Legacy. I don't know if two people can use one token. Moreover, the Pavilion of Legacy's protection is very tight. I'm afraid I can't handle it. You should go in by yourself. Oh, okay. Zhang Xiao nodded. Is there any danger inside? It's all the legacies of your Misty School inside. What danger can there be? However, the things on the second floor are the real legacies. You can't understand them now, so it's better not to touch them. In any case, it won't be too late to cultivate them when you're strong enough and use the blade-breaking force to enter the path of immortals. Even if I can't cultivate them, I can still pass them on to the next generation. Zhang Xiao nodded. He held the four-sided token in his hand and slowly walked into the Pavilion of Legacy. Zhang Xiaohua, on the other hand, watched quietly. Zhang Xiaohu calmly entered the Pavilion of Legacy. The first thing he saw was, of course, the portrait of Yang Haoya. When he was in the Jade Hall, Zhang Xiaohua had already told him that there was a place to worship in the Pavilion of Legacy. That was why he didn't kowtow in the Jade Hall. Now that he was here, how could he not do it? Zhang Xiaohu walked to the table. There was a fist-sized incense burner on the table. There were 9 incense sticks stuck on it. The incense burner was simple and unadorned. It was unknown what method was used to carve strange patterns on it. The 9 incense sticks were also different from the usual ones. They were as thick as a baby's thumb and had some faint patterns on them. Zhang Xiaohu looked at the incense burner and pulled out the 9 incense sticks. The incense sticks had faint traces of being burned. He took out a fire sickle and lit the 9 incense sticks on the burner one by one. Then he stuck them on the incense burner one by one. The incense sticks flickered and flickered. However, the smoke that rose from them was 9 perfectly straight lines that floated upwards. Zhang Xiaohu lit the incense sticks and took a few steps back. He knelt on the praying mat and put his palms together. He murmured, "Disciple Zhang Xiaohu is the sect leader of this generation's Misty School. Today, with the help of my younger brother, I came to the Pavilion of Legacy to see the true face of the Patriarch. Disciple pays his respects to the Patriarch and asks for the Patriarch's spirit in the underworld to protect our Misty School." The 9 incense sticks continued to rise to the top of the portrait. They did not scatter, but gathered together. After a while, the gathered smoke gradually formed the shape of a bullet. The 9 incense sticks on the incense burner suddenly extinguished. The bullet seemed to be attracted by something and flew straight to the portrait, hitting Yang Haoya's forehead. As the smoke seeped into the portrait, a bright spot gradually appeared on the portrait. The bright spot slowly brightened, but when it reached a certain point, it gradually dimmed and then began to shine again. Yang Haoya's face was covered in smoke. The smoke slowly seeped into the portrait, and a bright spot gradually appeared on the portrait. The bright spot slowly lit up, but when it reached a certain point, it gradually dimmed and then began to shine again. After a few times of this, Zhang Xiaohu finished paying his respects. He respectfully kowtowed 9 times on the praying mat. Just as he was about to get up, he saw the bright spot on the portrait. At this moment, the bright spot seemed to be exerting force. It suddenly lit up, and a beam of light shot out from the portrait. Following that, a scholar who looked exactly like the one in the portrait appeared out of thin air in front of Zhang Xiaohu. Seeing the blank spots on the scholar's body from time to time, Zhang Xiaohu immediately thought of what Zhang Xiaohua had said in the Jade Hall. He couldn't help but blurt out, "Primordial spirit projection?" Sure enough, Yang Haoye said, "What's your name? Which generation of Misty School's disciples are you?" Without waiting for Zhang Xiaohu to reply, Yang Haoye waved his hand and said sadly, "Forget it. There's no need to say anything. I heard it anyway." Zhang Xiaohu was silent, but he still replied respectfully. Yang Haoye naturally turned a deaf ear to him. He stood with his hands behind his back and his eyes looking outside. Zhang Xiaohu didn't know what was going on. After a while, Yang Haoye said, "Since you're a disciple of Misty School and have come to the Heritage Pavilion, you must be this generation's chief disciple. You're also a candidate for the next generation's leader." Disciple is this generation's leader of Misty School, Zhang Xiaohu said with a bit of shame. Since you've come to the Heritage Pavilion, I'm sure your master has already told you all the secrets of Misty School. Since you're also preparing to accept the inheritance of our school, I won't say anything unnecessary. I'm sure you know that I's appearance here is a primordial spirit projection. I don't appear every generation's chief disciple to accept the inheritance. I's appearance depends on luck. It's just that, even though I's primordial spirit projection, I know that Misty School hasn't had a chief disciple come here to accept the inheritance for a long time. Also, I feel that the heaven and earth yuan qi is getting thinner and thinner. It's no longer enough to sustain I's primordial spirit projection. Is this the reason why our Misty School hasn't had a disciple come here to accept the inheritance? Zhang Xiaohu opened his mouth, but didn't know how to answer. These words sounded like a legend to him. Even though I's primordial spirit projection, I've always been worried about the Misty School. There hasn't been a chief disciple for a long time. Could it be that the Misty School has already perished? Seeing you here today, I's quite gratified. Finally, before my primordial spirit projection dissipates, I can see this generation's chief disciple. Please cast a monthly vote. Please cast a recommendation vote. Please collect. Please tip. Thank you. Chapter 1096. Zhang Xiao knew that Yang Haoye couldn't hear him, so he didn't bother to correct him. But looking at Yang Haoye's flickering spirit projection, he couldn't help but worry. Sure enough, he heard Yang Haoye say, "Although I don't know your name, but you can be considered as a person with profound fortune. I feel that the qi of heaven and earth is extremely scarce. If you came a few years later, I's spirit projection would have dissipated. I'm afraid that even if you wanted to see I, you wouldn't be able to." Then, Yang Haoye's spirit projection flickered a few times. Yang Haoye smiled bitterly and said, "It's still out of I's expectation. I didn't think that it would actually reach such an embarrassing state. Well, since I don't have much time, I can only make a long story short. You're my Misty School's chief disciple. I just don't know if your master is outside. If he is outside, I'll have to trouble you to call him in. These matters still need to be explained to Misty School's leader. Reporting to founder, disciple is Misty School's leader." Zhang Xiaohu helplessly explained again. After waiting for a moment, Yang Haoye said again, "Well, you are Misty School's current leader?" "Yes, and I don't need to explain in detail. I haven't come out for a long time. I'm afraid you haven't seen me. Just now, I already told your disciple that I don't have much time, so I'll make a long story short. As for the Misty School's inheritance, I don't worry. This inheritance pavilion has a spirit gathering array, which can gather the qi of heaven and earth for my disciples to use. Even if the qi of heaven and earth is scarce, it can still barely pass down my Misty School's orthodoxy. Moreover, there are many cultivation techniques in the inheritance pavilion. No matter what kind of physique, you can find a suitable cultivation technique. This inheritance pavilion's restriction was personally set up by I. Ordinary people can't enter. And Sakura, I reckon he's long dead. No one can enter, so my inheritance won't be lost. Among the 3 sects of Immortal Path, my Misty School has a relationship with Fragrance Cult and Shindao Sect. If the other 2 sects have any requests, we will do our best to satisfy them. Only with the help of the 3 sects can we prosper and pass down our inheritance. Yang Haoya talked a lot about the immortal Tao, as well as the secrets of the Misty School. Zhang Xiaohu listened with fascination. Although he had endless questions, he didn't dare to ask. He just calmly memorized everything. Then, Yang Haoya said with a serious face, "You must remember what I said. It's best if you write it down in a jade slip and pass it down so that the disciples will know the origin of the Misty School." Yes, this disciple understands. Zhang Xiaohu knew the records, but how would he know how to record them into the jade slip? Well, what I'm going to say next is another matter that will affect the prosperity of our Misty School. Yang Haoya's expression became more serious. This disciple is all ears. Zhang Xiaohu's expression also turned serious. "Do you know why my Misty School was established in Ethereal?" Yang Haoya asked. Zhang Xiaohu was depressed and secretly said, "How would I know?" Sure enough, Yang Haoya didn't wait for his reply and said, "The reason why this poor Taoist wants to establish a sect in the Misty Peak is a great secret of the Misty Sect. Since the establishment of the sect until now, this poor Taoist has never told anyone because this matter is of great importance. If the Fragrant Cult or the Godly Saber sect were to know about it, there would be a great storm. Perhaps the stability of the 3 sects would be weakened because of this, or even become enemies." After hearing this, I'm afraid you don't understand. I will tell you now. It's because in a mountain not far from here, there is an ancient Immortal's Mansion hidden. Immortal's Mansion? Zhang Xiaohu was stunned and asked curiously, "What is that?" Yang Haoya raised the corner of his mouth and said with a faint trace of pride, "Didn't I say just now? I came here with Wan Wuxin and Yuming Xin, but I happened to get some ancient jade slips by chance. These jade slips faintly mentioned this Immortal's Mansion, which was left by an ancient, powerful person. There are endless mysteries in it, and if you can get it, you can practice to become an immortal." Become an immortal? Founder, isn't he an immortal? Zhang Xiaohu was even more stunned. So, you can't blame I. There is only one Immortal's Mansion, but I and the others have 3 people. If they also know about it, I may not have a chance. So I first occupied this Misty Peak and set up my Misty School. Although Misty Peak is lacking in resources and can't be compared to Fragrance Cult's Dragon Vein and Shindao Sect's innate water restriction. After all, it is very close to the void where the Immortal's Mansion is hidden. As long as the Immortal's Mansion appears, my Misty School will be the first to get it. That's not something that Dragon Vein and innate water restriction can compare to. Sigh. I's fortune is poor and my experience is quite bumpy. Although I didn't lose my life in the hands of Tian and Fragrance Cult, but, sigh, the past is unbearable to look back on. Love is really hard to see through. It's not as good as Wan Wuxin, who lost his life in the ruins of Huanshu and didn't have many worries. Yang Haoya's words were somewhat incoherent, and Zhang Xiaohu didn't understand. After waiting for a while, Yang Haoya continued, "Although I didn't lose my life in Fragrance Cult, and there were some unforeseen events later, my life can be considered peaceful. But even so, in the end, I didn't see the Immortal's Mansion appear. Presumably, the Immortal's Mansion has no fate with I. As for the Immortal's Mansion, I'm afraid that only I know about it. Even Yuming Xin doesn't know about it. Because I'm afraid of bringing disaster to the future disciples, I've been keeping it a secret. If I don't say it now, I won't have the chance to say it." Then, Yang Haoya told Zhang Xiaohu the specific location he knew in detail. Zhang Xiaohu was stunned when he heard it. Wasn't this Yao Mountain next to Lu Town? Was it also the location of the colorful brilliance that he saw in the middle of the night when he, Chang'e, and Chun came back from Guizhuang House? Could it be that the Immortal's Mansion that the founder talked about is about to appear? Zhang Xiaohu somewhat understood. The Immortal's Mansion is a gift from the heavens. Only the virtuous can have it. I told you about the Immortal's Mansion to let my Misty School have an opportunity before the other sections. If with this opportunity we still can't snatch the Immortal's Mansion, then there's no need to snatch it. That Immortal's Mansion has no fate with my Misty School. My Misty School won't give up its inheritance for the Immortal's Mansion. And according to the ancient records, that Immortal's Mansion also hid in the void for a very strange reason. It seems to be suppressing something. Of course, these are some of the guesses of the ancient powerful people and may not be true. Becoming an immortal? How can it be so easy? I'm going to cultivate. At this point, the projection of Yang Haoya's spirit blurred and his voice disappeared after a while. When Yang Haoya became clear again, his face was a little lonely and also a little reluctant. He said, "This is a time to leave?" Then, there was another wave of blurriness, and Yang Haoya became clear again. He raised his head and looked in a certain direction. He said sadly, "Is she well?" Then, he said urgently, "I have a matter to entrust to you. I implore you to go on behalf of I." Zhang Xiaohu didn't dare to be negligent. He bowed and said, "Founder, please speak. In the south, there is a sorrowless city. In the city, there is a nameless lake. And it was later called Sorrowless Lake. I don't know if the Frowning Pagoda is still there. If you succeed in your cultivation, please go to the bottom of the pagoda for I and tell the woman below the pagoda, AI, there is no need to hide it from you. Tell Yu Mingxin below the pagoda that I regret it." As he said that, his face seemed to be reminiscing. The projection of the primeval stone flickered and gradually turned into specks of light. "Forget it. There is still a trace of true Yuan left. I will fulfill your wish. It is not a waste for you to go on behalf of me." As he said that, Yang Haoya's head turned into light. The specks of light were like fireflies. They rushed to Zhang Xiaohu's forehead and entered into the meridians in Zhang Xiaohu's head. Then they followed the meridians all the way down to the lower dantian. When they saw Zhang Xiaohu's black and white qi, they swarmed and wanted to merge with it. What is this? Why is there no true yuan?" An extremely tiny voice sounded. Even if one was lying on Zhang Xiaohu's stomach, they still wouldn't be able to hear it. This was Yang Haoya's last thought. The projection of Yang Haoya's primordial spirit completely disappeared. The last trace of true yuan was unable to find the true qi in Zhang Xiaohu's dantian. It could only wrap around the qi in Zhang Xiaohu's dantian, turning it into a thin ball of light that protected the surroundings. The medicinal power of the meridians nourishing pill and qi-generating pill that were originally on the ball of qi was immediately refined under the brilliance of this light. They turned into tiny traces of true qi and were slowly absorbed by the black and white ball of qi. The true yuan formed by Yang Haoya's primordial spirit projection was refined by Yang Haoya. It couldn't be directly absorbed by Zhang Xiaohu. Even if it entered the lower dantian, Zhang Xiaohu would still have to use the Misty School's immortal Dao cultivation method to refine it bit by bit and turn it into his own cultivation. The true yuan formed by the medicinal efficacy was different. It was exactly what Zhang Xiaohu could absorb. That trace of true yuan wasn't much, but when it fused with the black and white qi ball, it caused earth-shattering changes inside. I'm sure all of you know that the blade-breaking force and like water-flowing water are books on how to enter Taoism through martial arts. What they talk about is how to produce the first strand of Jinqi. It's difficult to go from nothing to something, but it's much easier to go from a little to a lot. Yang Haoya's trace of true yuan refined the medicinal efficacy in Zhang Xiaohu's lower dantian. It was precisely this first trace of true yuan that allowed Zhang Xiaohu to save several decades of bitter cultivation. Seeing the trace of true yuan entering the qi ball, it was like igniting a fuse. Zhang Xiaohu only felt the qi ball in his lower dantian making pung 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 sounds. All the true yuan, whether it was the true yuan of the plain mental cultivation method or the ethereal divine skill, mutated under the influence of the true yuan. They all evolved into the two types of true yuan. Moreover, under the obstruction of the star power in the black and white qi ball, the two didn't mix. It was still you and me, and you and me. Stunned, Xiao Huzhong was as dumb as a wooden chicken. He didn't have the time to control the true yuan, nor did he have the strength to stop the mutation of the inner qi in his lower dantian. When all the inner qi in his lower dantian had turned into true yuan, the black and white qi ball was already as small as it could be. When Zhang Xiaohu came to his senses, he tried to use the plain mental cultivation method and the ethereal divine skills mental cultivation method to mobilize the inner qi in the qi ball again. However, he was shocked to find that no matter how he mobilized the inner qi, the qi ball didn't move an inch. Please vote monthly. Please vote recommendation. Please collect. Please tip. Thank you. Com to vote recommendation or monthly. Chapter 1097. Zhang Xiaohua stood outside the inheritance pavilion with his hands clasped behind his back. He was looking at the empty space next to him, seemingly deep in thought. Suddenly, there was a flash of brilliance at the entrance of the inheritance pavilion. Zhang Xiaohua turned around and said with a grin, "Second brother." However, when Zhang Xiaohua saw Zhang Xiaohu's dazed expression, she couldn't help but be astonished. She smiled and said, "What's wrong? You've been in there for so long. Is it because you can't bear to come down after seeing your Misty School's inheritance? Don't be like this, second brother. When you step onto the path of immortality in the future, you can still cultivate these jade slips. Even a magic weapons inside can be used by second brother." Hearing Zhang Xiaohua's consolation, Zhang Xiaohu couldn't help but smile wryly. He stretched out his hand and said, "Don't bother with those useless things. Come and take a look at my dantian." "What's wrong with your dantian?" Zhang Xiaohua was stunned. She reached out and sent a wisp of true qi over. She asked curiously, "What's wrong with your dantian?" However, when Zhang Xiaohua's true qi entered Zhang Xiaohu's dantian and saw the true essence in the qi mass in his dantian, she couldn't help but be stunned. Second brother, why is there true qi in your dantian? Also, why has this qi mass become so small?" After that, Zhang Xiaohua tried to send her true qi into the qi mass. However, how could her true qi compare to Zhang Xiaohu's true essence? Yang Haoya's qi mass had already covered Zhang Xiaohua's qi mass. No matter what, Zhang Xiaohua's true qi couldn't penetrate it in the slightest. Zhang Xiaohua knew that Zhang Xiaohu had a fortuitous encounter in the inheritance pavilion, so she asked without thinking, "That's strange, second brother. You just went in for a while. Why did so many changes happen in your dantian?" Zhang Xiaohu hesitated for a moment, then roughly explained what had happened in the legacy pavilion, causing Zhang Xiaohua to be extremely envious. "Sai, this is fate. Second brother, when I went in, I also saw the incense burner and candles. But I'm not a disciple of the Misty School, so I only said a few words to Senior Yang. I didn't think that I would really go and pay my respects. Otherwise, TSK, wouldn't this adventure be mine? Don't be envious of me, Xiaohua. Right now, I can't even use an ounce of inner strength. You know that the Misty School is in a critical situation right now. Without martial arts, I won't be able to hold on to my position for long." Zhang Xiaohua also had no other way. "Senior Yang gave his last trace of true qi to you to protect your dantian. What can I do?" "Oh, that's right. Second brother, do you remember the method I taught you to imitate true qi with your inner strength?" "I remember. You want to?" "That's right, second brother. I think something might have happened to your inner strength. Why don't you try that method?" When Zhang Xiaohu heard this, he tried the method that Zhang Xiaohua had taught him before, but the ball of qi still didn't have any reaction. Seeing Zhang Xiaohu shake his head, Zhang Xiaohua couldn't help but frown. But then, his mind lit up, and a jealous expression appeared on his face. He curled his lips and said, "Second brother, how about this? You can use that method in reverse." Zhang Xiaohu was puzzled. "Why in reverse?" Zhang Xiaohua said exasperatedly, "Using it in reverse is using inner strength to imitate true qi. Using it in reverse is using true qi to imitate inner strength. Don't you see that I usually use inner strength to deceive people? That's the reason." Oh, so it's like that. Zhang Xiaohu suddenly understood. He immediately thought about this method in his mind for a while, then sat cross-legged and slowly tried it. After the time it took to eat a meal, Zhang Xiaohu's bitter face suddenly bloomed with a smile and said, "Success! I can mobilize inner strength." "Please, second brother, what kind of inner strength is that?" "It's clearly true qi," Zhang Xiaohua said sourly. "True qi? Is that the true qi in the immortal Tao?" Zhang Xiaohu was surprised, but Ancestor Yang's true qi seems to still be in my dantian. How would I know? Second brother, my cultivation is much worse than Senior Yang's. I don't know what he did to your body. Then what about my martial arts? Zhang Xiaohu was still thinking about his martial arts. Second brother, Zhang Xiaohua was a little disappointed and said, "There are 100 people in the Jianghu, and 101 of them want to set foot on the immortal Tao, but they don't have any chance. You, on the other hand, went in and kowtowed a few times. You're already half a person on the immortal Tao, so what kind of martial arts are you still thinking about?" But Zhang Xiaohu still argued, "Without martial arts, how can I fight with others?" Isn't that simple? You just have to familiarize yourself with the method just now and imitate true qi into inner strength. This way, you can use all the martial arts you've practiced before. Seeing Zhang Xiaohu's enlightened look, Zhang Xiaohua said again, "Moreover, didn't I tell you about the dragon soaring cultivation method before? Now that you can use it, I believe that with your current inner strength, even Ancestor Li might not be your opponent under the dragon soaring 9 heavens." How is it powerful? Zhang Xiaohu was shocked. Of course, Zhang Xiaohua said proudly. However, these are all insignificant Daos, and it's difficult to reach the immortal Tao. What you need to do now is to carefully look at the breaking blade force and, like water, and learn how to operate true qi inside, so that you can use true qi skillfully. What about the Suhuan cultivation method and the ethereal divine art? Zhang Xiaohu couldn't help but ask. That's the Misty School's divine art. Of course you don't need to practice it, second brother. Think with your heel, and you know that it's a cultivation method of the martial Tao. It has no effect on you. What you need to do now is first, familiarize yourself with this new true qi, and second, refine that trace of true qi that Senior Yang gave you. TSK. I've worked hard to cultivate for many years, and thought that I was lucky enough. Who knew that compared to you? I'm really far behind. 9 kowtows, and you've exchanged it for the cultivation of the immortal Tao. If I had known earlier, I would have kowtowed 18 times, right? As she spoke, she stretched out her hand and said, "Give me the token." "Why?" Zhang Xiaohu said warily. "Didn't you want to return the inheritance of the Misty School to me?" Zhang Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and said unhappily, "Please, I'll go and find you 2 of your Misty School's immortal Tao cultivation methods. I have my own inheritance. Why would I care about your Misty Schools?" I can't find it myself." Zhang Xiaohu took out the token and didn't want to give it to her. Second brother, you haven't gone up to the 2nd floor yet, right? Zhang Xiaohua mocked. "When you go up to the 2nd floor, you'll know everything. And I really haven't gone up to the 2nd floor." Zhang Xiao nodded and handed the token to Zhang Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohua took it and said, "Second brother, you can stay here and familiarize yourself with how to mobilize your true qi. I'll go and find it for you. However, there are many cultivation methods on the 2nd floor, and you might need 2 types of cultivation methods. It might take a long time." "All right, off you go." Zhang Xiao nodded and sat down cross-legged. He carefully experienced the cultivation methods that Zhang Xiaohua had taught him before, and at the same time, he also experienced the soaring dragon cultivation method in his hands. After about 2 meals, Zhang Xiaohua came out with 2 jade scrolls in her hands. She smiled and said, "Second brother, after looking for a long time, I only found 2 relatively simple introductory cultivation methods." Simple. Zhang Xiaohu was depressed. "Why didn't you find something more subtle? You're biting off more than you could chew, second brother." Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "First, The immortal Tao has been annihilated. You entered the Tao through martial arts, so your understanding of the immortal Tao is shallow. How could you find a subtle cultivation method that would be easy to learn? It will be a waste of time. Second, you already have true qi. The key now is to sense the yuan qi of heaven and earth, draw it into your body, refine Senior Yang's true qi, and familiarize yourself with and mobilize your true qi. There is no difference between a subtle cultivation method and a simple cultivation method. Third, the subtle cultivation method may have its own uniqueness in absorbing yuan qi. At this time, the yuan qi of heaven and earth is scarce. Even if your cultivation method is subtle, there is no yuan qi in heaven and earth for you to absorb. So it's like this. Zhang Xiaohua's explanation was simple and easy to understand. Moreover, Zhang Xiaohu also heard some things about the immortal Tao in the Inheritance Pavilion, so he understood, what cultivation method is this? How do I comprehend it? Looking at the 2 jade slips, Zhang Xiaohu asked, "Oh, the Kuan Peng transformation walks the path of Yang, and the Nishan cultivation method walks the path of Yang, and the Nishan cultivation method walks the path of Yang. You have a black and white ball of qi, 2 types of inner strength. Moreover, the ball of qi is still here, and it is vaguely black and white. I estimate that you will need to use 2 different cultivation methods." Seeing that Zhang Xiaohu was still puzzled, Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "This thing is called a jade slip. It requires divine sense to read it. Your cultivation is still shallow, so you can't generate divine sense. So, you can only let me read it first, and then I will teach you the words inside." Jade slip? This is a jade slip? Zhang Xiaohu thought of Yang Haoya's advice. How do you write it into a jade slip? You also need to use divine sense. Oh, Zhang Xiaohu knew that for the time being, he couldn't write down the secrets of the Misty School that Yang Haoya had told him about. However, he immediately realized something. "Xiaohua, you can read this cultivation method, but it's best if you don't teach it to others." Don't worry, second brother. I've seen your Misty School's inheritance. These 2 cultivation methods are both elementary. I reckon that in your Misty School, they won't count for much. Moreover, in the future, my Beidou School and your Misty School will support each other. Even if you give these 2 cultivation methods to my Beidou School, it won't be a big deal. AI, fine. What else can I say? Zhang Xiaohu shook his head. What do you want to say? You don't need to say anything. Just be happy. Zhang Xiaohua tossed the tablet to him and said, "You should go take a look at the 2nd and 3rd floors. See if what I said is true." All right. Zhang Xiaohu took the tablet and entered the Inheritance Pavilion as usual. Zhang Xiaohua released her divine sense and immersed it into the jade scroll, carefully reading it. Not long after, Zhang Xiaohu came out from inside, his face filled with excitement. "So fast. I can only look but can't use it. Why should I stay here?" Zhang Xiaohu said unhappily, "Right, Xiaohua, is the 3rd floor the spirit gathering formation that Ancestral Master Yang mentioned? How do I use it?" "Ha!" Zhang Xiaohua laughed and said, "It's undoubtedly a spirit gathering formation. However, if that spirit gathering formation can be used, would Baso still be a martial artist?" Zhang Xiaohu was dejected. Then he smiled and said, "If it can't be used, then don't use it. Didn't you say that the qi of heaven and earth has already recovered? It'll be fine as long as it can be used in the future. Please vote monthly. Please vote recommendation. Please bookmark. Please tip." Chapter 1098. Zhang Xiaohua and Zhang Xiaohu left the Hall of Inheritance. On the way, Zhang Xiaohu asked Xiaohua about the Immortal's Mansion that Ancestral Master Yang talked about. "What do you think?" In fact, when Zhang Xiaohu was narrating Yang Haoya's words, Zhang Xiaohua already had a plan in her heart. Now that Zhang Xiaohu asked, she said frankly, "Second brother, although Senior Yang thinks that only he knows about the Immortal's Mansion and that it's a big secret, in fact, Senior Huan of Wan Wuxin also knows about it. When we were in the ruins of Huanshu, Senior Huan told me about it. It's just that I'm not a disciple of the Shindao sect, so he didn't tell me the specific location." When we arrived at the Shindao sect, Senior Huan's primordial spirit projection appeared again and talked to Bai Yinxiu for a long time. I don't know what they talked about, but I know that Bai Yinxiu sent two groups of people out. One group went straight to the incense cult, but where did the other group go? Of course, they went to the Immortal's Mansion. A few days ago, I saw that there was a change in Mount Yao. I want to check it out, but I didn't see anyone between the clouds and the water. They must have some immortal way method to hide themselves and have already made arrangements at Mount Yao. Moreover, according to what you said, in the past few days, there has been a 7-colored brilliance appearing at midnight. Tell me, who in the entire Jianghu doesn't know about it? Misty School has just recovered, and its internal and external troubles have not been eliminated. Do you still have the strength to snatch the Immortal's Mansion? I think it's better to subdue Ming Qing and the others first and settle the matter of the Righteous Alliance. That's your top priority. Zhang Xiaohu nodded. Yes, that's what Ancestral Master Yang said too. Zhang Xiaohua laughed again. Moreover, the most important thing is that I don't know where my beta school is. I heard about Senior Huan's mansion and have always wanted to snatch it as the foundation of my beta school. So, second brother, please don't fight with me. Zhang Xiaohu heard this and laughed. I was wondering why you've always been so arrogant about beta school, but I haven't seen you set up there. So you have this idea. You're not simple. Second brother, I started from scratch. I can't compare to you. You received the inheritance with just a few kowtows. I have to take it one step at a time. If I get the Immortal's Mansion, our 100 ninja will benefit from it. That's enough. How much did you get? I only had a little bit of luck, and you remembered it? Also, I don't care. I don't have immortals. Family. Hey, where's that? Zhang Xiaohu asked as he walked out of the hall and looked at the alchemy room. Oh, I was just about to tell you. This is the alchemy room of your Misty School. Let's go down and take a look. Zhang Xiaohua led Zhang Xiaohu to the alchemy room and the secret underground room. She told him about the alchemy furnaces and said, although I don't know how to use these 6 alchemy furnaces, I'll take them. I don't plan to return them to you. Well, if you take them, then take them. If you don't want to return them, then don't. What else can I say? I can't snatch them from you. Zhang Xiaohu said angrily. Also, you've refined so many alchemy pills and restored the martial arts of my Misty School's disciples. This is my Misty School's compensation to you. Zhang Xiaohua was overjoyed. She said seriously, thank you, faction leader Zhang. You're welcome. Zhang Xiaohu waved his hand. If I need any alchemy pills in the future, you can refine them for me at any time. Huh? Zhang Xiaohua's mouth was wide open. Zhang Xiaohu didn't have much interest in the alchemy room and was about to leave. Zhang Xiaohua smiled. Second brother, you can go back by yourself. I still have something to do. I need to refine some alchemy pills. What alchemy pills? Can I take a look? He asked shamelessly. No, this is Beidou School's secret. Zhang Xiaohua shook her head. Also, it's getting late. You should go back early. Tell Mom and Dad that I'll go back when I'm free. Okay. Zhang Xiaohu knew that he was busy and couldn't stay here for long. Also, second brother, the Jade Talisman and the token are related to the inheritance of your Misty School. You must protect them well. Don't let anything happen to them. Yes, I know, Zhang Xiaohu said, and hid the 2 items close to his body. I still don't feel safe. Why don't you leave them with me? Zhang Xiaohua smiled. Don't. That's because they aren't yours anymore. That's why you feel unsafe. On the contrary, I feel that they are the safest. Zhang Xiaohu curled his lips. The 2 brothers exchanged a few more words before Zhang Xiao left. With the Jade Talisman and token, Zhang Xiaohu could enter and leave safely. Zhang Xiaohua naturally didn't have to worry. When Zhang Xiaohu walked far away, Zhang Xiaohua changed her expression into a serious one. She opened one of the alchemy rooms on the stone wall. She pinched a seal and opened the fire in the alchemy room. Then, she took out one of the 7-8 trigrams purple gold furnace from her belt and placed it on the fire to preheat it. Then, Zhang Xiaohua took out a dark green praying mat and sat down cross-legged. She took out the Jade Talisman from Master Jinggang and the poison scripture from Great Master Changgang and carefully studied it again. After an unknown amount of time, Zhang Xiaohua opened her eyes. Her eyes were full of confidence. From her purse and belt, she took out the ghost-face mushroom and other herbs that grew in the black fog from the Ghost Valley of the incense cult. She also took out some herbs from the Yulon Grand Canyon. Finally, she thought for a moment and took out a cypress flower grass and picked a leaf from it. Just like that, Zhang Xiaohua prepared all the herbs he needed to refine the soul-absorbing pill. According to the Poison Codex and Zhang Xiaohua's own understanding, he added a few more herbs to complete the ingredients. Looking at the 8 trigrams violet gold furnace, Zhang Xiaohua knew that it had already been preheated. First, he added the herbs he had prepared, as well as the cypress flower grass, into the 8 trigrams violet gold furnace according to the 5 elements. Then, he formed a hand seal and hit the earth fire. Not long after, Zhang Xiaohua's heart moved. Her divine sense swept into the 8 trigrams purple gold furnace. She was surprised and secretly said, "In the past, it often took a day to melt the liquid. This new 8 trigrams purple gold furnace, actually, it only takes a short time. It is really made up of 7 furnaces." As he thought about it, he changed the seal in his hand. When he hit the earth fire, the flames of the earth fire gradually turned white. As frost gradually formed on the stone wall beside the earth fire, the 8 trigrams purple gold furnace also gradually changed. This change was very strange. Although the furnace slowly turned black, the temperature of the furnace did not change. It was the same as when the green flames were burning. So that's how it is. Zhang Xiaohua was a little surprised. She first saw the fire turn white and confirmed the jade talisman, but she still didn't understand how the fire at such a low temperature could refine pills. At this time, seeing the temperature of the furnace didn't change, she knew that there was something strange inside. Seeing that the timing was just right, Zhang Xiaohua also threw the remaining medicinal herbs from the Ghost Valley into the furnace. A wisp of flying dust rose, and all the medicinal herbs turned into a light black medicinal liquid. The impurities were slowly quenched in the cold fire. When Zhang Xiaohua saw that things were going smoothly, she set up an enchantment at the door of the alchemy room. She went out from other enchantments and returned to her new home in the Huanxi Mountain Villa first. When Zhang Xiaohua came out, the sky was already dark. When Zhang Xiaohua appeared in the courtyard, the small courtyard was already filled with the fragrance of food. "Hey, this smell seems to be different from what Mother usually cooks." Although Zhang Xiaohua had already abstained from eating food, she also ate a little of the food cooked by her mother from time to time at home. Moreover, she had eaten it for more than 10 years before. How could she not smell it? With a sweep of divine thought, Zhang Xiaohua immediately understood. She saw that in the hall, the dining table that was several times larger than the dining table used by the Zhang family was already full of wine and delicacies. Zhang Kai, Mr. Liu, and Guisufei sat at the top, accompanied by Oyen. Qiu Tong held a wine pot in her hand and stood next to Oyen. After Oyen politely urged them to drink, she immediately helped to fill the wine glasses of Zhang Kai, Mr. Liu, and Zhang Xiaolong. "Why do you let Qiu Tong serve you?" Zhang Xiaohua was slightly stunned, but she immediately understood. She secretly thought that Oyen was careful. Probably the dishes on this table were also brought by Oyen and Qiu Tong personally. Zhang Xiaohua was about to move in when she heard Oyen say with a smile, "This small courtyard is quite quiet, but it's not very convenient. If Uncle and Aunt are not used to living here, just tell me. I will definitely make you satisfied." Guo Sufei was flattered and repeatedly waved her hand. "Not at all. Not at all. Manor Lord O is too polite. We have never lived in such a beautiful courtyard. I'm afraid that it will be so beautiful that I can't sleep at night." "How can we not be satisfied?" Oyen's face showed a wronged expression and said in a low voice, "Aunt, is there anything that I did wrong?" Guo Sufei was stunned and said, "Manor Lord Oh no, why do you think so? We've been tidying up the house all day, so busy that we've forgotten to cook. Well, I haven't found a stove. You've brought this table of food over. We've already eaten ready-made food. What's wrong with your cooking? But why does Aunt keep calling me Manor Lord Oh?" Oyen's eyes turned red and said, Since Aunt and Uncle came to Huanqi Manor, I have told Aunt and Uncle that you only need to call me by my name. Aunt, do you think— No, no, no. Guo Sufei repeatedly waved her hand and said, Oh Zhuang. Oh Yin, I just think that you are the manor lord of such a big manor, and we're just people from a small village. It is really rude to call you by your name directly. Oh Yin said with a smile. Uncle and Aunt will live here for a long time in the future. Naturally, we will often come to visit each other. Just like in the village, we will call each other fellow villagers. Calling other manor lords will be a lot more distant. As she said, she raised her cup and said, If it wasn't for the fact that it would make people feel that I'm climbing up the social ladder, I really want to call Aunt my godmother. I don't dare, I absolutely can't. Guo Sufei was shocked. She also picked up the small wine cup and shook her head repeatedly. Not to mention that Guo Sufei was shocked. Zhang Xiaohua, who was outside the courtyard, was even more puzzled. In his impression, no matter what Yin did, she was neither servile nor overbearing. Even if he saved her life, he didn't see her being so intimate. Could it be that her mother really made her feel close? Chapter 1099. When Zhang Xiaohua was wondering why Yin was so abnormal, she suddenly thought of something and used her divine awareness to scan outside. She saw Zhang Xiaohu, Chang'e, and Chun coming from a distance, talking about something while walking. Oh, I understand. Zhang Xiaohua suddenly realized, Miss Oh, could it be that you're interested in my second brother? Otherwise, she doesn't have to compromise like this and talk to my mother, an old lady in the countryside. However, looking at Chang'e and Chun, who were beside Zhang Xiao, who looked happy, Zhang Xiaohua smiled bitterly again. Second brother has 2 wives, plus Miss O? How can he stand it? Not long after, Zhang Xiaohu and the other 2 people approached, and Zhang Xiaohua greeted them. Seeing Zhang Xiaohua, Zhang Xiaohu said in surprise, You came out? Came out? Zhang Xiaohua curled her lips. Second brother, your words seem to have a special meaning. Could it be you didn't tell the 2 sisters-in-law about it? About it? What about it? Chun asked curiously. Well, Zhang Xiaohu stared at Zhang Xiaohua and said, Don't ask now. It's a serious matter now, and I haven't thought it through yet. Chang'e looked at Zhang Xiaohua with an inquiring look. Zhang Xiaohua nodded. Well, second brother is right, but Zhang Xiaohua took Zhang Xiaohu to the side and whispered, You can't see the mental cultivation methods of the 2 immortals, so I can only tell you. You know that my calligraphy is not presentable. If you want to comprehend it often and practice it like usual martial arts, you must write it down with pen and ink. If Chang'e and Chun don't write it down, who else can you ask to write it down? Zhang Xiaohu patted his forehead and chuckled. Since this morning, I've been dizzy. I don't know whether it's true or not, and I don't know how to say it. Now that you mention it, I really should explain it to them first. That's right. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, If you can't trust second sister-in-law, who else can you trust? Then he thought for a moment and said, Oh right, second brother. Zhang Xiaohua hesitated for a while, not knowing how to tell him about Yin. Zhang Xiaohu asked curiously, So, is there anything you're embarrassed to say? Then he said mysteriously, Are you interested in that female disciple from my Misty school? What's there to be shy about? If there's anything you're too embarrassed to say, just tell your sisters-in-law and ask them to set you up. It's not necessarily worse than a dream. Second brother, Zhang Xiaohua snorted. She pointed her chin at the small courtyard not far away and said, What's wrong with me? You, on the other hand, are in some trouble. Go take a look yourself. I'm in trouble? Zhang Xiaohu was stunned and said, We're already in my Huanqi mountain villa. What trouble can I have? My Huanqi mountain villa? Zhang Xiaohua's mind lit up when he heard this sentence. He instantly understood what Yin was thinking. Zhang Xiaohu ignored Zhang Xiaohua. He pulled the 4 of them into the small courtyard with his hand. From afar, they could hear Yin and Guo Sufei talking, as well as the laughter of Lu Qian and the others. Zhang Xiaohu understood what Zhang Xiaohua meant when he heard it. His face was slightly embarrassed, while Changa's face immediately darkened. Eh. Zhang Xiaohua walked beside Zhang Xiao. Seeing the changes in their expressions, she was surprised and secretly said, "Could it be second brother and Miss O, really?" Zhang Xiaohu glanced at Changa and pushed the door to enter. Everyone in the room heard the sound and turned around to see the four of them. They were all happy. Lu Qian said, "Xiaohu, why are you so late? Oyen has been here for a long time. You're the only ones left in our family." This was very ambiguous. Anyone who heard it would think of another layer of meaning. Oyen heard it and immediately stood up. She smiled and said, "Sister-in-law, please have a seat. Faction leader Zhang is busy. How can he be idle with us? I thought of this, so I asked the kitchen to prepare dishes to welcome you. I'm sorry to trouble Miss O." Zhang Xiaohu cupped his hands and said, "I'm really busy today, so I'm late. Faction leader Zhang, please have a seat." Oyen stood up and gave Qiu Tong a look. Then she said to Zhang Xiaohua, "Xiaohua showed up this morning. I haven't seen her for a day. I wanted to bring you some wine to thank you for saving my life, but it's rare for your family to gather. I won't disturb you." As she spoke, she left her seat and was about to leave with Qiu Tong. Guisufei saw this and quickly stood up. She urged her to stay. "Oyen, you haven't finished your meal yet. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Since we're living together, we're family. Why are you being so polite? Let's finish our meal before you leave." Oyen would not stay. She smiled as she walked. "Aunt, don't get up. It's a good time for the 3 generations of the Zhang family to gather. Why should I stay? I'll come and see you tomorrow when I'm free." Seeing that Oyen was determined to leave, everyone stood up. Oyen quickly ran a few steps and said with a smile, "Please don't send me off. Please don't send me off." When Zhang Xiaohua saw this, she also quickened her steps and said, "Sister O, let me send you off." "Okay." Oyen turned around and bowed to Zhang Kai and Guisufei. "Uncle, Aunt, please go back. Xiaohua can send me off." Guisufei smiled and said, "That's good too. Oyen, have a safe trip. Come back often in the future if you have nothing to do." Oyen said a few more polite words and left the courtyard. After a few steps, she smiled at Zhang Xiaohua and said, "Xiaohua, you should go back too. The food is getting cold. I'll ask the kitchen to make a few more dishes and have Qiu Tong send them over." Zhang Xiaohua shook her head. "It's okay, Sister O. There's a kitchen in the courtyard. Mother and sister-in-law are used to cooking. They'll be ready once it's hot." "Okay, that's good too." Oyen smiled and said, "Your mother may be polite to me and may not tell me if she's not used to it. You're an old friend. If there's anything wrong, tell me immediately. Don't let your mother and father be wronged." Zhang Xiaohua nodded in agreement. After that, Oyen didn't let Zhang Xiaohua send her off and left with Qiu Tong. Although Qiu Tong had a smile on her face, she didn't say a word to Zhang Xiaohua. When they were far away, Qiu Tong looked around and couldn't help but say, "Miss, you don't have to do this." Alas, Oyen sighed. "Times have changed. I'm under someone else's roof. How can I not lower my head? But this Huanqi manor was left to you by the old faction master. It's all in the past." Oyen shook her head and said, "Huanqi manor and ethereal heights coexist. One is under the faction master, and the other is under the faction master's wife. My brother loves me, and my sister-in-law doesn't want to take care of it. So Huanqi manor has always been in my hands. Now it's faction master Zhang, who has 2 wives. This Huanqi manor will be handed over to Chang'e and Qinshan sooner or later. Don't you have Elder Lu and others? They are the grandmasters of faction Master Zhang. They're all very partial to Miss. Haha, Qiu Tong, the rules are the rules. No one can break them. Since I don't have much to do with the Misty School, why should I covet their Huanqi manor? Faction Master Zhang's family is very good. If I live here, maybe they won't object. But Chang'e knows that Jingyi Nun arranged the marriage, so she must have a grudge. If she doesn't agree, even if Faction Master Zhang suppresses it, it will be a hindrance to the couple. Maybe I really have to wander around the world. Miss, don't be afraid. I'm here. Even if something happens, I'll accompany you to wander around the world." "Haha, it's not. I guess it's all my guess." Oyen smiled and there was still melancholy in her laughter. Oyen and Xiaotong talked and gradually went away. Zhang Xiaohua's figure gradually appeared from the treetops by the roadside. She looked at Oyen and Xiaotong, who were already far away, and sighed. A girl's heart is really meticulous. Why didn't I think more about it? When Zhang Xiaohua returned to the small courtyard, everyone had almost finished eating. Zhang Xiaohua also sat down and casually ate a few mouthfuls. She couldn't help but ask, "Second brother." Then she wanted to say something but stopped. She looked at Chang'e and said, "Forget it. Second sister-in-law, I'd better ask you, why did Jingyi Nun arrange the marriage?" Arranged marriage? Everyone was stunned. Zhang Xiaohua blushed and looked at Chang'e, asking, "Xiao, you heard it from Oyen?" Zhang Xiaohua shook her head and said, "Oyen told me. Why should I ask you?" As he spoke, he repeated what he had just heard. Alas, poor child. Hearing this, Guisufei said, "First, since she saw us in the morning, she has been accompanying Xiaoxin. I thought she and I hit it off. It turns out." Alas, Guisufei sighed and looked at Chang'e and Chunchun without saying anything. Chang'e's face turned red and she explained, "Miss O, you're overthinking. How could?" As she spoke, Chang'e recounted everything that had happened on Lingxiang Peak. When Zhang Xiaohua saw that her second brother had been poisoned, she only thought that Abbess Jing had forced him to do so. Now that she heard the story, she knew that there were so many things that had happened. "Xiaohu, you're poisoned," Zhang Kai asked anxiously. "It's okay. Xiaohua has cured it," Zhang Xiaohu said with a smile. Hearing that the poison had been cured, everyone was relieved. Chang'e continued to explain, "Not to mention that Oyen is Master O's sister. I and other disciples of Misty School respect Master O very much, who will treat her badly. Even if Chun Chun and I take over Huanqi Villa, it will be in the future. Now the Misty School is not stable. Xiaohu can't think about other things." When everyone heard the reason, they already knew Oyen and Chang'e's feelings. So, they didn't say anything more. They just advised, "What others think is their own business. You just need to do your own business." Chang'e was happy. Today it's peaceful, but who knows what will happen in a year or 10 years. Maybe Zhang Xiaohua didn't want to think too much, but she was still worried about Oyen's situation. Oyen's situation was really awkward. After dinner, Zhang Xiaohua found a room for herself. She called Zhang Xiaohu, Chang'e, and Chen over and told them that Zhang Xiaohu had already set foot on the path of immortality. Chapter 1100. Really, Chang'e was overjoyed. She grabbed Zhang Xiaohu's hand and shouted. Zhang Xiaohu couldn't hide the smile on his face and nodded with a smile. Then, "Senior brother, aren't you more powerful than Master O?" Chen Chen's eyes were full of longing. "Of course, I can't compare with Master O now, but if you give me a few more years, I'll definitely be more powerful than Master O," Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. "How old is Master O? How old is Xiaohu? When he's as old as Master O, then he'll be one of the most powerful people in Jianghu. Why didn't you tell us about this earlier?" Chang'e complained. "Alas, to tell you the truth, didn't I tell you just now? I was so surprised that I felt dizzy all day and walked like a feather. I didn't know how to tell you," Zhang Xiaohu explained. "However, I heard from Xiaohua that I just entered the way of immortality by chance and haven't mastered the cultivation method. It's not worth mentioning at all, so I have to ask you to, my wives, to do me a favor." Chang'e and Chen were shy and said, "My husband, please tell us what you want." Zhang Xiaohu told them about the Heart Sutra. Chang'e and Chen certainly agreed. "Great." Zhang Xiaohua clapped her hands and said, "In the next few days, second brother, you should practice the blade-breaking force and learn how to use the genuine qi. Don't look at the qi drawing and qi refining first. After you finish writing the Kuan Peng's Edge and Nishan Heart Sutra, you can carefully understand and practice them." "Well, I'll listen to you," Zhang Xiaohu said with a smile. "I'll leave the rest of my life to you." Well, Zhang Xiaohua bared her teeth and said, "Then make me an elder of your Misty School. You really want to?" Zhang Xiaohu said. With your divine ability, I can definitely stand my ground against all opposition. Forget it, Zhang Xiaohua waved her hand. I'm already inseparable from Misty School, so there's no need for these superficial things. All right, what kind of pill are you refining? There were quite a few spiritual herbs in the medicine hall. They were all found by the Righteous Alliance from who knows where. They were all quite old. Do you want some? Oh, I don't need it for the time being. When I need it, I can get it myself. Zhang Xiaohua didn't treat herself as an outsider. Then, he suddenly thought of something and said, "Oh right, there really is something I need to trouble you with." "What is it?" Zhang Xiao nodded. "Second brother, do you still remember that before we went to Shitsue Mountain to save people, we saved a middle-aged man who was a performer from the bullies in Lu Town? Oh, I remember him. He brought a little monkey with him, and he sold medicinal plasters." Zhang Xiao thought for a moment and said, "I remember that he gave you the pill formula. And it's that pill formula. It's the pill formula for the bone condensation pill. I used it to refine the bone condensation pill." "Ah, there's a positive karma?" Zhang Xiaohu said in surprise. "This man who is a performer can be considered a benefactor to Misty School. Hee, if you want to say it like that. It could be considered a bit." Zhang Xiaohua said, "This man is called Chu Zhigao. He lives in Dragon Mountain. Second brother, find a disciple to go and bring them over. It's not safe there. He has a child called Jing. I plan to take him in." "Okay, I got it." Zhang Xiao nodded. "Chu Zhigao is skilled in alchemy. It's also suitable for him to enter my Misty School's medicine hall. Don't even think about it. He's already marked with my Beidou School's label. You can't snatch him away even if you want to." Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. Then she asked, "All right, second brother, it's been a while. The Righteous Alliance doesn't seem to have any news?" Zhang Xiaohu was also at a loss. "Yes, my Misty School is united. We're just waiting for the Righteous Alliance's troops. But the Righteous Peak is as stable as Mount Tai. I don't know what Zhang San is thinking. Forget it. Ignore him. We'll deal with it as it comes. We'll deal with it by sticking to the status quo." Zhang Xiaohua waved his hand. "Now, you should think about how to improve your cultivation. Therefore, in the following 10 days, Zhang Xiaohua dictated Kuan Peng Transformation and Nishan Heart Sutra every day and had Chang'e and Qinshin copy one each. Then he explained to Zhang Xiaohu how to sense the vitality of the world and draw it into the body. After that, he escaped into the Misty School's Misty Palace and focused on refining his soul-absorbing pill. On the Righteous Peak, Zhang Xiaohu and the others have been worried about the Righteous Alliance. At this time, there was a lot of discussion. Reporting to Alliance Master Zhang, I think that this matter of the Misty School must not be started. Since Nun Jing Yi of the Fragrance Cult has already said that the Misty School has reopened and has nothing to do with the Fragrance Cult, then we must give them a thunderous blow and let the Jianghu know that the Righteous Alliance is not to be trifled with. Otherwise, with the Misty School as a precedent, the various gangs in the future will not be easy to manage. Some people with unfathomable motives may seek refuge with the Fragrance Cult, or even between the clouds and the water. Vice Alliance Master Me is right. I think so too. The Misty School must not be set as an example. Another Vice Alliance Master, who was slightly younger, also clamored, but it's been many days since Alliance Master Zhang came back from the incense cult. Why, haven't we seen Alliance Master Zhang arrange the troops and deploy the elites? A mere Misty School. A few years ago, the Righteous Alliance might have been worried, but now the older generation of disciples have been crippled of their martial arts. How can the remaining new disciples be a match for us? That's right. The Fragrance Cult's martial arts assembly has a great influence. If the Righteous Alliance doesn't feel comfortable, I'm afraid we'll fall behind. In the main hall, only Alliance Master Zhang San sat at the head of the table with a gloomy face. His eyes seemed to be looking at the Vice Alliance Masters below him, but his eyes were empty. No one knew what he was thinking. Vice Alliance Master Chai, who only had one arm left, frowned a few times. He wanted to refute, but when he saw Zhang San's expression, he gritted his teeth and endured it. As expected, a tall and thin old man spoke again. Alliance Master Zhang, you should say something. Since the establishment of the Righteous Alliance, when have we ever suffered such a great loss? But ever since we destroyed the Misty School, things have never gone well. Not to mention, when we destroyed the Misty School, Vice Alliance Master Mi's martial arts were greatly damaged, and Vice Alliance Master Chai lost an arm. Later, our Vice Alliance Master Nin mysteriously disappeared. Other than a burn mark, there was no trace of him. Until now, we haven't found anything. These losses are fine. Our Righteous Alliance also obtained the Misty School's Misty Mountain Villa. It can be considered as compensation. But in these years, the Misty School's forbidden area, who knows how many brothers have died. They didn't even get a single bit of their immortal inheritance. And now, the Fragrance Cult actually backstabbed us. They sent out all the disciples of the Misty School to take up the Misty School's banner again. Is there any need to say more? Everyone in the Jianghu knows that they are obviously targeting our Righteous Alliance. This Misty School must be a branch of the Fragrance Cult. Don't you have any idea what the Fragrance Cult is doing? If you don't do anything, not only will the Misty Mountain Villa be taken away by the Fragrance Cult, even the Righteous Peak will be taken away by Jingyi. How dare you? Vice Alliance Master Chai finally couldn't take it anymore. He pointed at the tall and thin old man and said angrily, "You Zhanfei, you're so noisy. Don't think everyone here is a fool who doesn't know what you mean." "What I mean?" "Vice Alliance Master," you sneered. "What can I mean? I'm just anxious to see the Righteous Alliance declining day by day." Sigh. Alliance Master Zhang San's face turned cold. He then sighed and waved his hand. "Stop talking." Then he looked at Vice Alliance Master Yu and said with a sneer, "What should I do according to Vice Alliance Master Yu's plan?" "This." Vice Alliance Master Yu was slightly startled. He probed, "Is there any need to say? I'm sure Alliance Master Zhang San already has a plan in mind." "Please enlighten me, Vice Alliance Master Yu." Alliance Master Zhang San smiled and said. Vice Alliance Master Yu rolled his eyes and said with a smile, "Since Alliance Master Zhang San wants me to say it, I'll throw a brick to attract Jade." Then he cleared his throat and said, "In my opinion, first, you should send a disciple to inform Vice Alliance Master Band of the news of the Misty School's reappearance so that he can be prepared. Even if the Misty School arrives before I rescue them, they can still hold on for some time. Second, send a green flame token as reinforcements immediately. Send the forces of the Righteous Alliance near Pingyang City as reinforcements. It's best to attack from both inside and outside, so that the Misty School will be attacked from both sides. Third, Alliance Master Zhang San can give the order for all the elite disciples of the Righteous Peak to come out in full force and exterminate the Misty School's disciples. But fourth, Alliance Master Zhang San laughed coldly. Fourth, if Alliance Master Zhang San is worried about the Fragrance Cult, you can send a portion of your disciples to ambush the Fragrance Cult on the way to Pingyang City. If the Fragrance Cult sends reinforcements, you can wipe them out. Not bad. But fifth, I'm slow-witted and can only think of this. If Alliance Master Zhang San has a better idea, please let me know." Vice Alliance Master Yu's tone was weak before he regained his composure. "Vice Alliance Master Yu has worked hard to guard the Righteous Alliance while we were away at the Fragrance Cult," Alliance Master Zhang San praised. "I don't dare to claim credit for myself. It's all thanks to Alliance Master Zhang San." Vice Alliance Master Yu said proudly. "But it's because Vice Alliance Master Yu didn't go to the Fragrance Cult and didn't participate in the Martial Arts Circle Assembly that you don't know that the pugilistic world of today is no longer the pugilistic world of the past." Alliance Master Zhang San said sadly, "I've long thought of what Vice Alliance Master Yu said. When I left the Fragrance Cult, I've already sent a disciple to pass the message to Vice Alliance Master Band of the Ethereal Peak and to the Green Flame Token. Of course, it's not like what Vice Alliance Master Yu said. We just need them to adapt to the situation and preserve the strength of the Righteous Alliance. Moreover, the 4 High Priests of the Righteous Alliance have also gone to the Green Flame Token. If there are no accidents, the disciples of the Misty School. Even if they manage to take the ethereal peak, they'll have to pay a huge price. Alliance Master Zhang, San has great foresight. I'm impressed. Vice Alliance Master Yu said regretfully. But you should listen to the news that Vice Alliance Master Chai just received. Alliance Master Zhang, San waved his hand expressionlessly. Please vote for me. 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 If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for me, Achidian. Come. I saw the incense cult, the Dawan temple, and between the clouds and the water and the Tenryu sex methods. Only then did I realize that my martial arts path was bleak. It's really like looking at the sky from the bottom of a well. That's why I ordered Vice Alliance Leader Ban to act at his discretion. Sai, it's a pity it's still too late. That old beggar Jingyi is really despicable. I already said that the incense cult wouldn't do anything. Why did they still send an immortal expert to Pingyang City? If that immortal expert didn't make a move, the Misty School would have suffered greatly this time. Vice Alliance Leader Chai said hatefully. That's right. Jingyi only sent 2 inner disciples and a bunch of outer disciples. She didn't even send any disciples from Immo Shin Palace. Isn't she relying on her so-called immortal expert? Alliance Leader Zhang San said thoughtfully. That immortal expert first destroyed the between the clouds and the water that surrounded Rejuvenation Valley. Then, he killed the Righteous Alliance's forces around the Misty School. Isn't it all because of that old beggar Jingyi? The Immortal Tao. Vice Alliance Leader Yu is melancholic. Our Righteous Alliance is congenitally deficient. Congenitally deficient can be made up for later. Alliance Leader Zhang San said with a smile. He clearly wasn't as dispirited as Vice Alliance Leader Yu. Alliance Leader Zhang, what do you mean? Vice Alliance Leader Yu was delighted. Nothing. Alliance Master Zhang San sneered. Even if my Righteous Tao Alliance is an immortal Tao Alliance, 3 of our 8 Vice Alliance Masters have already fallen. If a few more harbor disloyalty, how can my Righteous Tao Alliance roam the pugilistic world? I wouldn't dare. Vice Alliance Leader Yu's expression changed drastically. He stood up and said, although my words are a little extreme, I am still loyal to the Righteous Alliance. Alliance Leader Zhang San, Vice Alliance Leader Yu, you don't have to be like this. I was just saying. Zhang San stood up and walked in front of Vice Alliance Leader Yu. He pressed Vice Alliance Leader Yu into a chair and said with a smile, the 9 alliance leaders of our Righteous Alliance have always worked together to make our Righteous Alliance a super sect in the pugilistic world. It is also the only martial arts sect other than the Immortal Tao Legacy sections. We also have a place in the Pugilistic World Convention. Vice Alliance Leader, you didn't get to see such a grand occasion because you were guarding the Righteous Peak. It is a pity that our Righteous Alliance didn't get to see such a grand occasion. Vice Alliance Leader Yu's expression relaxed. He smiled and said, I wouldn't dare. This is also my effort. This is everyone's effort. Zhang San smiled and said. Then, his expression turned cold. However, if anyone really has ulterior motives, I won't let them off. Vice Alliance Leader Yu's relaxed expression tensed up again. That's right. Alliance Leader Zhang San. What did you mean by innate deficiencies can be made up for later? Mikong, who looked a little dispirited, asked curiously. Alliance Leader Zhang San smiled and said, this is an opportunity that the heavens have given to our Righteous Alliance. As he said that, he looked at Vice Alliance Leader Chai. Vice Alliance Leader Chai continued, brothers, I'll let you know that when the messenger disciple was on his way back to the Righteous Tao Alliance, he was resting at night, and coincidentally saw a rainbow-colored brilliance in the sky above the southwest of Pingyang City, illuminating the entire night sky. A rare treasure has appeared? The others were curious. That's right. That disciple observed it for several days. Every night, there would be a bright light. It is exactly the same as the legendary rare treasure of the Immortal Tao. Rare treasures from the heavens can only be obtained by the virtuous. This opportunity does not only belong to the Immortal Tao sections. If our righteous alliance obtains it, we might be able to reach the heavens in one step. Alliance leader Zhang San, is this reliable? Is it really a rare treasure? Haha, the spies from the Dalan Temple and the incense cult have also sent news. These two sects are doing something big. Do you think this is a rare treasure of the Immortal Tao? What about between the clouds and the water? Between the clouds and the water? They have just made a name for themselves in the pugilistic world. There is no news of their movements for now. However, if our righteous alliance knows about this, how can they not know? Alliance leader Zhang San waved his hand and said, "Let's not care about them for now. Vice alliance leaders, this is an important matter. I need to go down the mountain personally and bring all the elites with me. Does anyone have any other opinions?" Vice alliance leader me hesitated and asked, "But what about the Misty School? We can't let them do whatever they want." "Don't worry, Vice alliance leader me. I know that you have suffered a great loss at Ethereal Peak and are still brooding about it. Listen to me." Alliance leader Zhang San understood Mi Kong's desire for revenge and whispered a few words in his ear. Mi Kong's face lit up. He cupped his hands and said, "Alliance leader Zhang San is wise. I admire that old beggar Jing Yi's efforts were in vain." Vice alliance leader Yu wanted to know the details, but was afraid that Zhang San would think too much. He could only pretend that he did not hear anything. "All right, Vice alliance leader you still have a heavy responsibility to guard the righteous peak and look after the rear of our righteous alliance." Alliance leader Zhang San waved his hand and said, "I will wait for the day when we obtain the rare treasure. I will remember your great contribution." "I dare not. I am afraid." Vice alliance leader Yu stood up and bowed. Between the clouds and the water that alliance leader Zhang San mentioned was much faster than the righteous alliance. However, Bai Yin Xiu, who was on the way, received the report from the messenger disciple. He could not help but have a strange expression. He turned to Li Su of Huiming Hall and said, "Li, the appearance of the immortal abode has caused such a huge commotion. It is beyond my expectations. It is just that even Ancestral Master Huan did not expect this. This is a little troublesome." Haha, congratulations, sect leader. The bigger the commotion, doesn't it mean that the immortal abode is more useful? If between the clouds and the water obtains it, won't the entire pugilistic world, the entire immortal Tao, belong to me in the future? Haha, Hall Master Li is right. Bai Yinxiu also laughed and said, "I'm also feeling both happy and worried. Fortunately, I received the message from the Ancestral Master and have already made arrangements. However, Ren Xiaoyao from the Incense Cult seems to know about this. I wonder, rest assured, sect leader. Ren Xiaoyao left the Incense Cult on the night of the Pugilistic World Convention. He might have gone to the Tenryu sect. I don't know his exact whereabouts." In other words, the Incense Cult does not know the whole story? Bai Yinxiu said thoughtfully, "But if the Tenryu sect intervenes, things will be difficult. The Incense Cult has also taken action, but I don't know if they know the whole story." Li Su said respectfully, "However, the Tenryu sect? Even if they want to intervene, as long as we obtain the immortal abode, will we still be afraid of them?" Li is right. By the way, sect leader, the remnants of the Misty School have recaptured the Misty Mountain Villa with the help of the Incense Cult disciples. Then, the immortal Tao Master who appeared in the Rejuvenation Valley appeared again and killed one of the Righteous Alliance's deputy leaders and 4 old masters. Ha! I knew it. This immortal Tao Master must be from the Incense Cult. Even if he wanted to deceive people, he should have done it secretly. Abbess Jing Yi is really old. By the way, Li, send some disciples to the mountains with my sect leader's token and invite some old immortals to come out. The Incense Cult has already sent immortals, so we have to show some sincerity. Please vote monthly, recommend, bookmark, and tip. Chapter 1102. It was just as Bai Yinxiu and Zhang San had expected. On Lingxiang Peak, in Mo Xin's palace, Nanjing, he looked at the sky outside the palace with an unknown expression and was in a daze. Cough, cough. Qinshan sat for a long time and coughed a few times. Chang'e glared at her, but Qinshan looked innocent and rubbed her nose. She seemed to have caught a cold. Alas, the appearance of spreading incense and the chaos of Jianghu. These words, I don't know who said it. Nanjing, he came back to her senses and said softly, before the formation of spreading incense collapsed, there was a big change in Huanshu. An unknown senior of the immortal path actually appeared. Outside Rejuvenation Valley, the flying sword killed the enemy. I didn't want to guess, but this senior actually came to Misty Peak. He killed a deputy leader and 4 consecrators of the Righteous Alliance with just a wave of his hand. Now we know that Longting Villa was instructed by between the clouds and the water. This senior of the immortal path has helped spreading incense several times. But why can't I remember that there is a senior with such magical powers in spreading incense? Abbess Jing Fan and Abbess and Jingyi reminded. Could it be the 2 Taishang elders? Absolutely not. Nanjing, he shook her head. The vitality of heaven and earth is scarce. Even primordial stones are rare. Even if the 2 grand elders have endless magical powers, but any magical power requires the consumption of vital energy. The grand elders can't afford it. Moreover, the 2 grand elders have been living in seclusion in Evergreen Valley for decades and have never seen outsiders. They definitely can't come out. Chang'e, Qinshan, and the others seem to have already heard about the news of the incense cult's grand elder. Their faces didn't show any surprise, but Qinshan said in a low voice, the grand elders are all women, but that immortal expert is a man. This is a big difference. Nanjing, he looked at Qinshan and said calmly, there was a man among the grand elders, but he died many years ago. Abbess Xuezhen chimed in, sect leader, you're overthinking. Since this immortal expert is closely related to our fragrant order, he's a friend and not an enemy. Sect leader, shouldn't you be happy? The problem is that the 2 grand elders are all stingy with their magic power. They don't care about ordinary Jianghu grudges. They only care about how to cultivate. But this one is really an anomaly. I can't help but worry. Are you worried that this senior will get involved in the grudges of the Jianghu and drag my incense cult into it? Jing Fan Shirtai said with a smile, cult leader Darren, don't forget the 2 Taishang you mentioned just now. If they make a move, do you think we'll be afraid of him? Abbess Jing, he smiled bitterly. The 2 grand elders only listen to the orders of the cult leader, and the number of times I can order them is limited. Unless it's a matter of life and death for the cult of fragrance, they can't be used. Then why did sect leader just issue the sect leader's order? Qinshan asked curiously. Our incense cult is now as stable as a rock in the Jianghu. Why is it a matter of life and death? Peacock, you tell her. Abbess Jing, he said. It was unknown whether she was disdainful to tell Qinshan, or whether she wanted to test Peacock's discipline. Yes, sect leader Darren. Peacock stood up and bowed. She said, after the news of the Misty School's disciples attacking the Misty Peak, I heard about the colorful brilliance appearing in the night sky near Yaoshan. Although I didn't see it with my own eyes, it has been happening for several days. It must be a strange sign of a celestial artifact being unearthed. In the celestial world, a celestial artifact with such a strange sign is extremely powerful and has incredible effects. If any sect obtains it, it will be like a tiger growing wings, and its strength will increase. Does sect leader Darren want to obtain the celestial artifact? So you invited the 2 grand elders? Qinshan thought about it. Abbess Jing, he nodded slightly, and then shook her head. Peacock is right. What I'm referring to is the strange sign in the sky. It's just that. If it's something with such a strange sign, it's not a celestial artifact, but a celestial artifact. A celestial artifact that's much more powerful than a celestial artifact. And Peacock also underestimated the significance of this. Strange sign? Abbess Jing, he said excitedly, long before the founder of our sect, Yu Mingxin, left a jade slip in Immo Xian's palace, saying something about immortal mansion. Immortal mansion? Chin exclaimed. This is impossible. Nothing is impossible. Abbess Jing smiled. According to Yuming Xin, the matter of Immortal Mansion is extremely secretive. She thought that she was the only one who knew about it, but she didn't expect that the Misty School was built in the Misty Peak, which is near Yaoshan. There isn't any paradise there. Since the founder of the Misty School, Yang Haoya, chose that place, he must have sent something. Therefore, Yuming Xin made it clear that she and Yang Haoya were old friends. If the Misty School were to take action, the incense sect wouldn't have to do anything. Why? Chen asked curiously. Such a big immortal mansion. Whoever has the ability can have it. You little girl, you don't even listen to the founder's words. Abbess Jing scolded, but there was no anger in her tone. Abbess Xuezhen bit her lip and thought for a moment, then said in a low voice, Yuming Xin didn't say that we can't destroy the Misty School. Junior sister Xuezhen is right. Abbess Jing narrowed her eyes and smiled. If the Xindao sect can be destroyed, why can't the Misty School be destroyed? If the Misty School is destroyed, this immortal mansion, won't there be no one to fight with the incense sect? Everyone gasped and secretly admired her. After a long while, Abbess Jing Fan said, Leader, I really admire you. At first, I thought that we had no choice but to join the Righteous Alliance and destroy the Misty School. Junior sister Jing Fan, you're wrong. What we said before was the original intention. We didn't intend to destroy the Misty School at first. The Immortal Mansion has been around for tens of thousands of years, and it hasn't appeared. We don't have the ability to predict the future. So how could we know that the Immortal Mansion would appear at this time? What we did before was indeed for the future of the incense sect. We hoped to find a way to save the incense sect from a secluded plane. But now, the method hasn't been found, and the protective array has collapsed first. We have to be ruthless and seize the Misty School in our hands. Although the Misty Peak is useless, it has an innate geographical location and is very close to the secluded plain in Yaoshan. If we can obtain such convenient conditions, not only will the strength of the incense sect increase, but it will also be a blow to the Righteous Alliance. Why not? But, leader announced to the entire Jianghu, the reconstruction of the Misty School has nothing to do with the incense sect. Chen asked, we went to Yaoshan and didn't go to the Misty Peak. We also didn't meet Zhang Xiaohu alone. Who can say that behind our back? Then when do we set off? We can't let others snatch this immortal mansion. Chen said anxiously. Don't worry. The immortal mansion hasn't been seen for tens of thousands of years. It's impossible for it to appear in these few days. Moreover, even if it appears, it's not something that can be entered at will. Let's wait for the elders to come up and set off together. Junior sister Jing Fan, I'll have to trouble you with all the affairs of the incense sect. In the Dalan Temple, there was a similar scene, but the Dalan Temple didn't seem to have the inheritance of the three sections. It was estimated that it was an extremely precious magic weapon, but no one expected it to be an immortal mansion. In the main hall of the Tenryu sect, the demigods and semi-devils were all present. The voice of Sakura sounded in the empty sky. Kinara has already told us about the Misty Peak and Yaoshan. What do you think, heavenly kings? The tall Azura had been impatient for a long time. When he heard this, he laughed and said, Do you still need me to say it? Let's go directly and seize the magic weapon of the Tenryu sect. No matter whether we can use it or not, we'll leave it in the Tenryu sect so that no one can use it against the Tenryu sect in the future. I have the same thoughts as Azura. This is the time to fish in troubled waters. We should let the boy go out to relax and let the whole Jianghu experience the power of the Tenryu sect. Heavenly King Yaksha is right. Our Tenryu sect hasn't been in the Jianghu for a long time, so the boy under you must be itching for a fight. However, you're all thinking too much. This thing in Yaoshan isn't an object, but an immortal mansion. Immortal mansion? The heavenly kings were all shocked. Azura asked curiously, how does Sakura know about this? I haven't seen any records of it in the sect. You don't need to know. Sakura laughed. You only need to know that this is a very useful immortal mansion. An immortal mansion is useless to our demonic sect. What do we need it for? Garuda asked curiously. Garuda, could it be that you were beaten silly by the people of the immortal sect? If that immortal mansion is obtained by others, wouldn't it be a great threat to our Tenryu sect? And this immortal mansion has a great use for me. You'll know when the time comes. Garuda's face turned slightly red when he heard this. He only said in a low voice, that person of the immortal sect is also strange. He killed the people of the Longting Villa and still wanted to save the little girl from the incense cult. Recently, I heard that he even helped the Misty School to kill the deputy chief of the Righteous Alliance. I really don't know. How did this immortal sect survive? Garuda, don't worry. This person of the immortal sect won't be able to jump around for more than a few days. When I kill that guy one day, I'll vent your anger for you. Sakura's words were very strange, making the heavenly kings puzzled. Sakura, why do you say that? Garuda asked curiously. Were we forbidden from provoking the people of the immortal sect in the past? Why did they change their nature now? It seems like they're going to start a massacre. Sakura only listened and didn't answer. Gandharv also asked, Sakura, where's our saintess? Is the treatment effective these few days? Why don't I see her coming out? Naturally, it's effective. Sakura smiled. The saintess has gradually recovered her memory. It's just that she's a little depressed these few days and doesn't want to come out. Then he said, Heavenly Kings, the incense cult has appeared and the Jianghu is in chaos. Our Tenryu sect should also join the fun. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian.com to vote recommendation and monthly. Chapter 1103. The rainbow-colored glow of Yao Mountain appeared every night. It was not a taboo, and even ordinary passers-by could see it, not to mention the people of Jianghu. Since the great sects of the Immortal Path and the Tenryu sect were so interested in Yao Mountain's immortal abode, how could the small sects of Jianghu not covet it as well? This was especially true for those who had been to the Huayu Palace of the Incense Cult and had seen the immortal Dao technique. Their sect leaders and elders were burning with passion. They racked their brains and mobilized the resources of their entire sect to analyze their strengths and weaknesses. They tried their best to seize the opportunity to compete for the heavenly bestowal treasure. For a moment, the entire Jianghu was in a state of turmoil. Various forces flocked to Yao Mountain. But at that moment, Yao Mountain changed again. The rainbow-colored glow gradually disappeared, and it no longer appeared at night. Was it a rumor spread by others? Or had it been taken by the great sects of the Immortal Path? Or had the Immortal Path's treasure not been born yet? In short, all kinds of opinions appeared again. However, no matter what, the entire Jianghu would definitely turn out in full force. Even if they couldn't go to Yaoshan for the time being, they would attract the attention of others. All the sects would still send their elite disciples to Yaoshan and other sects to gather information and exchange information. In short, no one was willing to retreat so easily. If the treasure suddenly appeared and they missed it, it would be too late for regrets. But the Misty School, which was closest to Yao Mountain, did not make any moves. But this calmness was only a facade in the eyes of the people of Jianghu. They believed that under the calm, there was an undercurrent. If the newly re-established Misty School wanted to stand firm, if it did not withstand the counterattack of the Righteous Alliance, and if it did not effectively mesh the two forces within the sect, it would never become a true Misty School. Just as Jing expected, Ming Qing and the other disciples of the incense cult had long been known by the people of Jianghu. But the disciples of the incense cult admire the Misty School and voluntarily join the Misty School. The incense cult was generous and gave these people a chance. Who could say anything? Incense cult. The strength they displayed during the martial arts tournament was not something that normal wanderers would dare to slander them. Of course, these were all the discussions and guesses of the people of Jianghu. Inside the Misty School, it was still calm and peaceful. The disciples of the two sects were cultivating and guarding their own rooms. There were no disturbances. On this day, Zhang Xiaohu was in the conference hall. Just as he was about to call Du Feng and the others over, he heard a voice behind him. Second brother, I have news for you. Come to the secret room behind the conference hall. Needless to say, it was Zhang Xiaohua who was hiding her figure. Zhang Xiaohu nodded slightly. Looking at the empty meeting hall, he got up and went to the secret chamber. Before Zhang Xiaohua could say anything, Zhang Xiaohu said first, "Don't tell me the news first. I have something to tell you." Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously, "What's the matter?" Zhang Xiaohu thought for a moment and said, "Your whereabouts have been unknown for the past 10 days. I have always wanted to tell you. Du Feng and Ding Chao. I feel a little uneasy." The two of them? What are you uneasy about? That's the famous Misty twin beauties. Their martial arts are getting better and better. They're catching up with Master and Martial Uncle Shui. They can be considered as the best among our generation of disciples. But don't forget, their martial arts were obtained from Shirxin Peak. You're hiding your head and showing your tail. Who knows who you are? I am afraid that they will think that the incense cult's experts help them, and, well, second brother, you are suspicious of your neighbor. Why are you suspecting these things for no reason? Zhang Xiaohua snorted. Zhang Xiaohu shook his head. You don't understand, Xiaohua. I am now the leader of the Misty School. Of course, I have to think about many things. Du Feng and Ding Chao are the backbone of my Misty School. I must ensure their loyalty. Okay, Zhang Xiaohua said impatiently. When I have time tonight, I will go there. Well, you better say that you are a senior of the Misty School. You wanted to save these disciples from the incense cult, but there were too many people and you couldn't help. So you cultivated the two of them to be the backup force of the Misty School. What do you think? As you wish, second brother. Zhang Xiaohua agreed. But then she rolled her eyes and took out a jade bottle. She smiled and said, "Why is it so troublesome? You just need to test the power of this soul-scaring pill and make them obey you wholeheartedly." Soul-scaring pill? Zhang Xiaohu was stunned and said, "What kind of pill is this? How can I make the two of them work for me?" Zhang Xiaohua smiled and explained the effects of the soul-scaring pill. Zhang Xiaohu shook his head like a rattle drum and said, "That won't do. Du Feng and Ding Chao are disciples of my Misty School. They will be of great use in the future. If they become puppets, I will cry." Then Zhang Xiaohu came to his senses and snatched the jade bottle. He smiled and said, "Didn't you say that you would help me deal with Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng, these disciples of the incense cult? There has been no movement for a while. It turns out that you have hidden your trump card here." But when he opened the jade bottle, there were only a dozen pills inside. Zhang Xiaohu couldn't help but ask, "If you only control Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng, I'm afraid that they still have Nun Jingyi's eyes and ears. It won't be easy to deal with them." Zhang Xiaohua said, "Second brother, do you think that this soul-scaring pill is an ordinary thing? It requires extremely precious herbs to refine. This is also my first time refining it. I don't know how effective it is. If I fail to refine it, won't it be a waste of herbs?" "Oh, this is just a test." Zhang Xiaohu understood. "And that's right. Today, I'm looking for second brother for this matter. Find a dozen disciples of the incense cult, and let me see the effect of this pill. This." Zhang Xiao nodded. "The disciples of the incense cult don't listen to me now. They can only go through Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng. Aren't there many disciples of the Righteous Alliance in the dungeon and back of the mountain? These disciples are still waiting for reinforcements from the Righteous Alliance. They won't surrender no matter what. I can't bear to kill them. I am worried. This is good. There are many disciples of the Righteous Alliance. If this soul-scaring pill is effective, second brother's strength will increase greatly." Hearing this, Zhang Xiaohu became even more anxious. He pulled Zhang Xiaohua and was about to leave. Zhang Xiaohua laughed. "Second brother, you're the leader of the Misty School. You have to pay attention to your demeanor." "Bullshit demeanor," Zhang Xiaohu said angrily. "This concerns the fate of my Misty School. How can I be calm? Besides, what demeanor do I have to talk to you about?" Zhang Xiaohua shook her head. I don't have anything in common with you." After saying this, She twisted her body and disappeared into the ground. Her voice was left behind. Second brother, you go ahead. I will follow you from behind. Zhang Xiaohu looked at her with envy. The true qi in his body flowed slightly. He sighed. The flow of true qi in this blade is gradually becoming more and more familiar. However, the mental cultivation of the Kuan Peng transformation is still not at the entry level. I don't know when I will be able to move as freely as Xiao Hua. Zhang Xiaohu left the secret room and called for a disciple to bring him to the back of the Misty Peak. The back of the Misty Peak was a cliff. It was a dead end. Hence, a few simple and crude wooden huts were built here to guard the captured disciples of the Righteous Alliance. Seeing the arrival of the sect leader, the disciple guarding the huts did not dare to be negligent. He hurried over to greet him. Zhang Xiaohu smiled and helped the disciple up. He explained the importance of guarding the huts and expressed his gratitude for their hard work. Then he said, I need a quiet wooden hut. I have some questions to ask the disciples of the Righteous Alliance. The disciple was encouraged by Zhang Xiaohu. He was excited and spoke incoherently. He pointed to the place where he was resting and said, Sect leader Zhang, this is where I rest. Do you think it's okay? I will bring a disciple of the Righteous Alliance over. I will personally guard it for you. Zhang Xiaohu smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Many thanks. I don't dare to trouble sect leader. The disciple ran off. Not long after, he brought a young disciple with a dispirited look. The young disciple obviously recognized Zhang Xiaohu. He was slightly surprised and said in a hoarse voice, I was wondering who it was. So it's the Misty Schools. Hall Master, may I know why you are looking for me? The disciple of the Misty School kicked the disciple's leg and scolded. This is our Misty School's sect leader, not some Hall Master. Zhang Xiaohu was stunned. He did not blame the Misty School disciple and only asked, You recognize me? The disciple of the Righteous Alliance had his pressure points sealed. He rubbed his leg and nodded with a bitter smile. When the immortal appeared, I was also at Misty Peak, and I understand. Zhang Xiao looked at him and said, I am looking for you today because I have some questions. The disciple's face changed slightly and said coldly, For the Misty School's sect leader to personally come and ask, it must be something important. I am just a small character in the Righteous Alliance. I have nothing to tell sect leader. Bang! The disciple of the Righteous Alliance kicked the disciple's butt again. The disciple of the Righteous Alliance staggered and almost fell down. Sect leader Zhang is asking you because you have a good opportunity, yet you're trying to shirk away. You are really courting death. The disciple of the Righteous Alliance scolded and then asked in a fawning manner, Sect leader, do you want this disciple to find another disciple? Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, You still need to find another disciple. Go and find a few more. I will ask this disciple. Yes. The disciple of the Righteous Alliance replied clearly and loudly. After the disciple of the Righteous Alliance left, Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, Come in and talk. Oomph. The disciple of the Righteous Alliance coldly snorted and entered the woodshed. Before the disciple of the Righteous Alliance could see clearly what was inside the woodshed, his vision turned black and he fell to the ground. Behind him, Zhang Xiaohua retracted her finger that sealed his pressure points. Hee, you run really fast. Zhang Xiao laughed and then stood to the side. Zhang Xiaohua did not reply. She squatted down and pinched open the disciple's tightly shut mouth and placed a soul-intimidating pill in his mouth. Please cast a monthly vote. Please cast a recommendation vote. Please collect. Please tip. Thank you. Chapter 1104. Zhang Xiaohu watched from the side as his heart leapt to his throat. If Zhang Xiaohua's soul-frightening pill was effective, then the problem that he had been having a headache over would be solved immediately. He could even use this soul-frightening pill as a milestone in the development of Misty School. With just this pill, Misty School would be able to escape the fate of being a puppet of Chuan Xiang cult and become their own master. However, seeing that the soul-frightening pill had already been consumed by the Righteous Alliance disciple. He did not see any reaction from the disciple. After a moment, Zhang Xiaohu could not help but ask in a low voice, "Xiaohua, this. Is there any effect?" Zhang Xiaohua ignored him and stood up. The joints in his body creaked, and his body shrank a little. Then, he turned around and said, "What's the rush?" "Ah." Zhang Xiaohu saw Zhang Xiaohua turn around and saw her face that was exactly the same as his. He was shocked and almost jumped up. Just as he was about to laugh and scold her, he saw Zhang Xiaohua stretch out her hand and touch the Righteous Alliance disciple's body. Then she whispered something into the Righteous Alliance disciple's ear. That disciple suddenly opened his eyes. His gaze was sluggish at first, then he looked straight ahead. After a while, his eyes lit up, and after a few turns, he saw Zhang Xiaohua's face. He seemed to have some questions. Zhang Xiaohua said in a low voice, "My name is Zhang Xiaohu. I am the leader of Misty School. In the future, you must listen to me and be a good Misty School disciple." "Yes." The disciple's voice was still hoarse, but his tone was not as sharp as before. "What is your name?" "This one is called Wang Lun." "Which sect are you from?" Wang Luan seemed to be struggling, but very quickly his expression changed and said, "This one was originally a Righteous Alliance disciple. Now I should be a Misty School disciple." "Okay, close your eyes." Wang Luan closed his eyes. Zhang Xiaohua reached out and sealed his acupoints. She looked back at Zhang Xiaohu and said, "How is it? How's the effect of my soul-scaring pill?" "Turn yourself back first." Zhang Xiaohu was not used to speaking in front of him. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and said, "Don't be afraid, second brother. When you get married, I'll be your best man." As she spoke, the joints on her body creaked, and a Zhang Xiaohua appeared in front of Zhang Xiaohu. "Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to change back to yourself if you keep changing back?" Zhang Xiaohu asked worriedly. "It's okay. As long as I remove the genuine qi of the shape-shifting skill, I will return to my original appearance." Zhang Xiaohua smiled and unsealed Wang Luan's acupoints. This time, Wang Luan looked past Zhang Xiaohua and looked directly at Zhang Xiaohu. Zhang Xiaohu walked in front of Wang Luan and looked him up and down. He did not find anything wrong with him. Wang Luan's eyes were clear, and his expression was also clear. There was no difference from before. "Wang Luan," Zhang Xiaohu said, "your subordinate is here. Faction leader Zhang, please instruct me." Wang Luan said respectfully, "Okay, it's nothing. Tell me about the Righteous Alliance's situation." "Yes." Wang Luan obediently told him about the Righteous Alliance. However, as Wang Luan said, he was just an ordinary disciple. How could he know so much? Of course, Zhang Xiaohu did not really want to get anything out of him. He only listened briefly before waving his hand and saying, "Very good. Wang Luan, you may go back. After a few days, you and the other disciples of the Righteous Alliance will transfer to my Misty School. Together with me, we will build the Misty School into a famous sect in the pugilistic world." "Yes, I will obey faction leader's orders." Wang Luan saluted and walked out. Outside the woodshed, the disciple of the Misty School was standing guard. Beside him were a few other disciples of the Righteous Alliance whose acupoints were also sealed. Seeing Wang Luan come out, the disciple hurried forward and came to the door. He smiled and said, "Faction leader Zhang, did this disciple tell you the truth? If you're not satisfied, I will go back and punish him." Zhang Xiaohu looked at Zhang Xiaohua and turned to the door. He said in a low voice, "I am very happy that you are diligent in your duty. However, you don't have to be too harsh on the disciples of the Righteous Alliance. You must remember that the disciples of my Misty School were also prisoners of others not long ago. That feeling, I believe you still remember it?" The disciple was stunned and immediately looked embarrassed. After a while, he bowed and said, "Faction leader Zhang is very kind and I admire you. I will pay more attention in the future." Then he pointed to the side and said, "These are some disciples with some positions in the Righteous Alliance. I believe they know more. I wonder if faction leader Zhang can use them." Zhang Xiaohu already knew that Zhang Xiaohua was only looking for people to test the effect of the soul-frightening pill. She didn't care about anyone, so he nodded and said, "Let them in." The disciple of the Misty School let them into the woodshed, and he became a guard at the door again. Inside the woodshed, just like before, Zhang Xiaohua still let these people take the soul-frightening pill and let Zhang Xiaohu ask them some questions before letting them out one by one. After leaving the back mountain of the ethereal peak, Zhang Xiaohu didn't return to the meeting hall. Instead, he went to the Huanxi villa. Zhang Xiaohua also showed up, and the two of them talked as they walked. "Second brother, what do you think of the effect?" Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. "Haha, Zhang Xiaohua's work is always of the best quality." Zhang Xiaohu nodded and said, "This is indeed a magical power of the immortal Tao. Wang Lun and the others, from the surface, there is no trace at all." No one would have thought that the disciples of the Righteous Alliance suddenly became disciples of our Misty School. They're faction leader Zhang's disciples, not some Misty School's disciples. Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. "Of course, that's the scary part," Zhang Xiaohu replied. "If I use enough soul-frightening pills, I'm afraid the whole Jianghu will be mine." "Wishful thinking," Zhang Xiaohua said with disdain. "Everything has its vanquisher. This soul-frightening pill also has an antidote, but it's not something that can be done once and for all. Moreover, the herbs used to make the soul-frightening pill are extremely precious. If not for helping you, I wouldn't be willing to use them. I only took care of the disciples of the Righteous Alliance and the incense cult in the Misty School. I don't have any more elixirs." Seeing Zhang Xiaohu's strange expression, Zhang Xiaohua said, "Of course, the herbs used to make the antidote are even more precious. I think in the Jianghu now, there may not be anyone who can refine it. Second brother, you will be safe for the next few decades." Zhang Xiaohu shook his head and said, "That's not what I'm thinking. Although what I said just now was just a casual remark, but thinking about it, it's also a little scary. If this soul-frightening pill is taken by someone with evil intentions, then won't it set off a bloody storm in the Jianghu? And if it's discovered, won't it become the public enemy of the Jianghu?" Zhang Xiaohua was stunned, then laughed and said, "Second brother, I just saw the effects of this soul-frightening pill and wanted to tell you about it. I didn't expect you to lecture me first." Zhang Xiaohu saw his brother's reaction and nodded. "What do you want to say?" Zhang Xiaohua didn't hide and said bluntly, "This soul-frightening pill is an item of the immortal path. It's originally a low-end trick. To be honest, no immortal path expert would waste it just to control the minds of others. There are many ways to deal with ordinary people in the immortal path. But in order to help second brother, I spent so much capital. I will never refine this kind of elixir in the future. Furthermore, using drugs to control one's mind isn't just limited to the immortal Tao. Even in the martial Tao, it's the worst. Since I'm in charge of ethereal sect, it's only natural for me to win people over through virtue. I'll pass down the legacy of Sect Master O's magnanimity. If I were to rely on such insignificant skills, how could ethereal sect become something great?" Zhang Xiaohu replied proudly. Zhang Xiaohua applauded and said, "Second brother's words are exactly what I want. If it weren't for the dangerous situation now, and the disciples of the incense cult are eyeing second brother covetously, I really don't want to be so ruthless. Yes, the immortal path is long, and I've just seen it. I'm still far from reaching the next level. I have no choice but to use extreme measures. Second brother, you don't have to be so concerned. This soul-frightening pill isn't too sinister. Apart from making people submissive, it's no different from ordinary people in other aspects." As the two of them spoke, the small courtyard of Huanxi Manor came into view. But at that moment, the sound of galloping horses came from behind. Zhang Xiaohu frowned slightly. When he turned back, he saw an ethereal sect disciple galloping over. When he saw Zhang Xiaohu, he immediately dismounted and bowed. "Reporting to Sect Master Zhang, elder who has sent a disciple over." Then he looked at Zhang Xiaohua and said nothing. Zhang Xiaohu was overjoyed at first, but then he said with some displeasure, "This is my younger brother. There's no harm in speaking. Yes, Master Zhang, the disciple said respectfully. Elder who has sent a messenger here. His name is Chu Yunfei, a former disciple of Divine Engineering Hall. He wants to talk to Master Zhang about their return. Ah, Zhang Xiao laughed and looked at Zhang Xiaohua. That's great. We've been waiting for them for a long time. We've also sent out disciples to look for them. Now, we finally have a chance to meet them again. If Elder Hu returns, our Misty School will be complete. Zhang Xiaohu waved his hand and said, You go out first. Tell Chu Yunfei that I'll go right away. After the disciple left, Zhang Xiaohua's face was expressionless as he said, It really is that Chu Yunfei. I presume that second brother still remembers what I told you. This Chu Yunfei is the disciple I met outside Soning Town. After so many years, he hasn't changed much. Yes, as long as he's Elder Hu's man. It's just that Elder Hu came a little early. If he had come a little later, maybe things would have been a lot easier. Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile. Second brother, don't worry. I'll go and start refining now. Just tell me the number of disciples from Fragrance Cult and Righteous Alliance. I won't let you down. Well, thank you for your hard work, Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohu patted Zhang Xiaohua's shoulder and said. Then he frowned slightly. All right, there's been no news from Yao Mountain these days. There's been no sign of anything. It's fine. I don't necessarily have to open beta school in Yao Mountain. Yao Mountain is in the teeth of the storm now. It'll be troublesome to take it. Then he looked into the distance and said, Now that Elder Hu has returned, I'm afraid second brother will have to deal with him for a while. Let's deal with second brother first. The two parted ways. Zhang Xiaohua returned to the small courtyard, and Zhang Xiaohu returned to Misty Mountain Villa. Please cast a monthly vote. Please cast a recommendation vote. Please collect. Please tip. Thank you. Chapter 1105. In the meeting hall, an elegant man in his 30s, dressed in brocade robes, stood with his hands behind his back. To his left sat Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng, the two deputy sect masters of Ethereal Sect. The man was unarmed and had an arrogant look on his face. He didn't even look at Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng. His gaze was fixed on the meeting hall surroundings. He looked greedily at every inch of it, as if he had missed it for a long time. Seeing that the atmosphere in the meeting hall was a bit cold, Gao Kunheng coughed and said, You call yourself Chu Yunfei from Misty School. Why are you so quiet in the meeting hall? Could it be that you're mocking my Misty School? You're from Misty School? Chu Yunfei retracted his gaze and looked at Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng with contempt. He couldn't help but sneer. My Misty School has always been the Misty School of my Misty School's disciples. When did it become the Misty School of the Incense Cult's disciples? Of course, I came to Misty School to talk to the leader of Misty School. You're not the leader of Misty School, so why should I talk to you? Gao Kunheng clearly didn't expect that this Misty School disciple named Chu Yunfei wouldn't give him any face. He had just opened his mouth to ask a question when he was blocked by a bunch of Misty School. His face reddened and he clenched his fist. He was about to get angry, but Ming Qing blocked him with his hand and smiled. Misty School is Misty School. It doesn't matter who it used to be or who it will be in the future. It's ours now. Since Elder Hu wants to return to Misty School, then he must face this reality. Otherwise, he might not be able to adapt to this Misty School. Then, he stood up and walked in front of Chu Yunfei. He said word by word, There is one more thing that I would like to correct. We are all disciples of the Ethereal Sect, not the Incense Cult. Everyone in Jianghu knows this. Brother Chu, you must be clear about this. Seeing this, Gao Kunheng also stood up and said with a smile, Deputy Sect Leader Ming taught you one thing, and I will also teach you one thing. That is, Misty Heights and Misty Peak were snatched back by us, the Misty School's disciples. If not for us, the Misty School's disciples, Misty Peak would still be in the hands of the Righteous Alliance. Chu Yunfei's face was a bit hot. When he was about to explain himself, he heard someone laughing outside. Since you are all disciples of our Misty School, you should know what you are good at and what you are good at. It is very rare for Brother Chu to be able to listen to the teachings of two vice leaders. The person who entered was none other than Zhang Xiaohu. Seeing that Zhang Xiaohu was giving him a way out, Chu Yunfei knew that he had to step down. He stepped forward and bowed slightly, saying, "Greetings, sect leader Zhang." Zhang Xiaohu looked at Chu Yunfei and did not blame him. He pointed at Yi Ji and said with a smile, "Brother Chu, you are a guest from afar. You should sit down first." Then he faced Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng and said, "Since the two vice leaders have taught Brother Chu one thing, then I will also teach the two vice leaders one thing. That is, Misty School was taken down by our Misty School's disciples, not by you or our Misty School's disciples. As for the specific credit, I think we should thank the immortal expert who suddenly made a move. If it wasn't for him, old man, whether our Misty School's disciples could have taken down Ethereal Peak or whether you and I would be sitting in this meeting hall is still uncertain." Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng heard this and couldn't help but be silent. Zhang Xiaohu's words were very correct. Although the Fragrance Cult's disciples killed at the front, the Misty School's disciples didn't show any weakness. If Zhang Xiaohua hadn't reached out and eliminated Ban Fugue and the four old consecrators, Ethereal Peak really wouldn't have been taken down. Others might not know, but how could Zhang Xiao not know? How could Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng not know? All right, vice leaders, please sit down. Brother Chu has brought news of our Misty School's elder Hu. You may not care, but I want to hear it. Ming Qing looked at Gao Kunheng and walked to his seat and sat down. Then Zhang Xiaohu waved his hand and ordered loudly, "Disciples on duty, go and invite Elder Li, Elder Lu, and Elder Wen. Elder One and the others here." Gao Kunheng frowned and said, "Grand Leader Zhang, the meeting hall is the place where we discuss important matters. When you welcomed Li Jian and the others back then, we didn't say anything. But now, I'm afraid it's not appropriate." Ming Qing also added, "Yes, Grand Leader Zhang. I've already said that our Misty School doesn't have any elders now. Elder Li, Elder Lu, Elder One, and the others, it doesn't seem appropriate for Grand Leader Zhang to call them that." Chu Yunfei seemed to have expected this situation. He sat quietly in his chair and narrowed his eyes, watching. Haha, Zhang Xiaohu had long regarded them as the same as Wang Lun. He wouldn't lower himself to their level. He smiled and said, "I'm used to calling them that. I just said it casually. Please don't take offense." As he said that, he looked at Chu Yunfei and said, "Brother Chu came from afar and hasn't seen the elders in the sect for a long time. It's good for him to meet them. Besides, aren't the two vice leaders also in the meeting hall? You can also see the touching scene when our Misty School's disciples meet." Hearing Zhang Xiaohu's shameless explanation, Ming Qing and Ming Qing were speechless. However, they thought that if they stayed away, these people might do something they didn't know. It was better to see them face to face. Not long after, Li Jian and the others arrived. Chu Yunfei didn't have much of an impression of Zhang Xiaohu, so it was inevitable that he would be disrespectful when meeting him. However, Li Jian, Lu Qingyang, Wenwenhai, and the others were all famous people from the Misty School. They were all direct disciples of two generations. Chu Yunfei didn't dare to slight them. When he saw Li Jian's familiar face appear at the entrance of the meeting hall, his eyes reddened. He immediately got up and ran over. He bowed and said, "Disciple Chu Yunfei from the Divine Engineering Hall greets Grandmaster Li." "That brat, you only saw your Grandmaster Li. You didn't see Grandpa Lu?" Chu Yunfei raised his head. Tears were already dripping down his face. Lu Qingyang, who had always been braver than others, was sitting on a cart and being pushed in. "Greetings, greetings, Grandmaster Lu. Are you well?" "Ha ha." Lu Qingyang laughed and said, very well, very well. I just don't know how Boss Hu is now." Grandmaster Hu was seriously injured back then. Although he has been recuperating in recent years, the effect isn't very good. Although he is much stronger than Grandmaster Lu, he has too many things to worry about. After exhausting himself, his health is worrying. Seeing Li Jian and the others, Chu Yunfei didn't hide anything. Hearing that Hu Yunyi's health was worrying, Lu Qingyang also asked anxiously, "Boss Hu? He's fine, right?" At this time, Wenwenhai, Xueqing, Lu Yueming, Ant Xin, Du Feng, and Ding Chao also arrived. Seeing so many old faces all at once, Chu Yunfei hurriedly bowed. He also felt a trace of warmth from the Misty School. "Everyone is still here. Sit down." Zhang Xiaohu stood behind them and said, "Brother Chu came today with Elder Hu's order. Let's talk slowly." "Yes, we will listen to Grand Faction Leader Zhang," Li Jian replied. Seeing Li Jian like this, Chu Yunfei frowned slightly. Lu Qingyang also smiled and said, "Of course, you are the Grand Faction Leader here. Of course, we will listen to you." Chu Yunfei's expression was even more strange. When everyone took their seats, the meeting hall was filled with old people from a Misty School. Only Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng were from the incense cult. They immediately felt that they were alone and weak. Ming Qing stood up and said, "Grand Faction Leader Zhang, we are the deputy faction leaders of the Misty School. It is proper for us to discuss matters in this meeting hall. We have no objections if you want to let Hero Li Jian and the others come up to meet us. However, if you want to talk about some internal matters, I suggest that we dismiss all irrelevant people." "That brat you." Lu Qingyang was furious. He slapped the armrest of the chair and was about to jump up. Li Jian quickly held him down and scolded, "Old Fifth Lu, this is the meeting hall. You have no right to behave atrociously here." Only then did Lu Qingyang realize that he had almost exposed himself. He unconsciously sat down resentfully and glared at Ming Qing fiercely. Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, "Deputy Faction Leader Ming, Chu Yunfei came from afar to talk about the old days and also to discuss some matters. What do you think I should do? To be honest, if Elder Li and the others were not in the ethereal heights, would Chu Yunfei come here? Can the disciples of my ethereal sect who are wandering outside return to my ethereal manor? Isn't this all because of Elder Li's face? If Deputy Faction Leader Ming suggests that I expel Elder Li and the others from the meeting hall, then I can tell you without hesitation that it is impossible. Vice Leader Ming, if you insist on your opinion, then please leave. After all, the people Chu Yunfei wants to meet are not you." As soon as Zhang Xiaohu's words came out, everyone in the hall was shocked. Li Jian and the others all knew that ever since they came to the ethereal heights, Zhang Xiaohu had always been patient. He was neither servile nor overbearing in front of Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng and often left them face. If it was not because he had no choice, he would never say anything ruthless. Now that he suddenly laughed and turned hostile, even Li Jian and the others were caught off guard, let alone Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng. "Faction Leader Zhang, what are you talking about?" Gao Kunheng stood up and said gloomily, "Could it be that Faction Leader Zhang got the Misty School? I wonder how you got the Misty School." Li Jian also stood up and said, "Faction Leader Zhang, it is better to separate public and private matters. We have already met Chu Yunfei. You can talk about the faction affairs first. When you are done, we can talk about the past. Faction Leader Zhang, don't delay the Misty School's important matter because of your emotions." Wenwenhai and the others also stood up and prepared to leave. Zhang Xiaohu quickly stood up and said, "Master, Elder Lu, please sit down for the time being. I have not reached the point where I can't separate public and private matters." Li Jian frowned slightly. He did not know what Zhang Xiaohu was planning to do. Today, he actually wanted to fall out with the fragrance cult. Although they had recovered their martial arts, thousands of disciples of the fragrance cult were in the ethereal heights. If they were not careful, wouldn't there be an internal conflict? However, he respectfully called Zhang Xiaohu Faction Leader Zhang. He could not ignore Zhang Xiaohu's words. He could only look at Wenwenhai's confused face and sit down. "What a good faction leader, Zhang," Lu Qingyang praised. "I like it. Please vote monthly, recommend, bookmark, and tip." Chapter 1106. After everyone was seated, Zhang Xiaohu looked at Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng, who were still standing with uncertain expressions. He sneered and said, "I'm the leader of Misty School. Do you two not want to follow my orders? Of course, we have to follow the orders of the leader of Misty School. However, we have to follow the orders of people who know how to repay kindness. I don't care about the orders of people who are ungrateful and don't know how to think about their origins. Gao Kunheng sneered as well. Ha ha ha. Zhang Xiaohu looked up to the sky and laughed. If we follow the orders of the fragrant cult, then we know how to repay kindness. If we don't follow the orders of the fragrant cult, then wouldn't we be ungrateful? Ming Qing nodded. Since Leader Zhang has said so, it seems that you know the whole story. Since Leader Zhang knows how you got your position, then you should know what to do to get your position in jail. If you act on impulse, then you'll only be working for others. Gao Kunheng squinted his eyes and said, Moreover, wasn't it the leader of the fragrant cult who bestowed upon you from Shirxin Peak to Misty Peak? If it weren't for the leader's benevolence, you would still be imprisoned in Shirxin Peak. Ha ha ha. Zhang Xiao laughed and clapped his hands. What a gift, what a benevolence. Although your fragrant cult wasn't the main cause of the destruction of my Misty School, you were still an accomplice. Your disciples also have the blood of my Misty School disciples on their hands. Your disciples of the fragrant cult crippled countless of my Misty School disciples' martial arts and brought them back to the fragrant cult. Nominally, you were protecting the face of Leader O's wife, but in reality, Hu and Jianghu didn't know what Nun Jing was thinking. Moreover, instead of saying that Jingyi Nun was helping me rebuild my Misty School, it would be more accurate to say that she was building a branch for Xiangxiang cult. Yes, even if Nun Jing took in my Misty School's disciples, it can be considered as keeping the descendants of my Misty School and not being completely annihilated by the Righteous Alliance. Moreover, she sent you to assist my Misty School in taking back the Ethereal Peak. She can only make up for her mistakes, and even with my Misty School. Now, you even want to meddle in the affairs of my Misty School and turn my Misty School into your puppet. As the leader of the Misty School, how can I tolerate this? I am grateful that Nun Jing promoted me to the leader of the Misty School, but I was originally a direct disciple of the Misty School. Even without Nun Jing Yi's support, I can still be the leader. The more Zhang Xiaohu spoke, the more agitated he became. On the other hand, Li Jian and the others were more and more shocked. This was definitely not the time to fall out with the fragrant cult. They didn't know why Zhang Xiaohu was so impulsive. On the other hand, Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng were first shocked. Then they sneered at the back of the mountain. In the end, there was a trace of smile on their lips. When Zhang Xiaohu finished speaking, they clapped their hands and said, Zhang Xiaohu, I didn't expect you to be such a hot-blooded man. These words, I think everyone here wants to say it, but you, the leader who is valued by our leader, actually dared to say it. I'm afraid that even our leader wouldn't have guessed it. However, this is also good. You, as the Grand Faction Master, are now highly respected in the ethereal sect. We, in that faintly discernible person, can't keep you in check. Let's ask the hierarch to decide whether we should replace you with someone else or punish you. Haha, I already said that the Misty School is the Misty School's Misty School, not the Misty School of the Fragrant Cult. The leader of the Misty School is decided by the disciples of the Misty School. How can Nun Jing be the leader of the disciples of the Misty School? Zhang Xiaohu said proudly. Then he looked at Li Jian and the others and laughed. You asked them, can I still be the leader of the Misty School? Ha ha. Lu Qingyang clapped his hands and said, of course, you're the leader of the Misty School. If anyone disagrees, I'll be the first to settle the score with him. Yes, Zhang Xiaohu is the leader of the Misty School recognized by the disciples of the Misty School. He's definitely not someone the leader of the Fragrant Cult can casually decide. What a bunch of ignorant people. Just because you got some benefits, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Do you think you can protect the Misty Peak with Hu Yuni and the other disciples of the Misty School? Do you think you could defy our leader's will? Ming Qing sneered and said to Gao Kunheng, let's go, Deputy Leader Ji. Let's go back and discuss who will be the leader of the Misty School after Zhang Xiaohu is dismissed by our leader. Gao Kunheng wanted to continue, but he didn't dare to stay in the meeting hall alone. Just as he was about to leave with Ming Qing, he heard Li Jian's low voice. Do you two still want to leave? Why? The famous elderly. Do you still want to keep us here? Ming Qing turned around and said disdainfully, if it were a few years ago, perhaps I would still feel apprehensive. But now, I only need a finger to crush you to death. I spared your lives only because I didn't know Lord Cult Leader's plan and didn't dare to act rashly. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Elderly, sit down, Zhang Xiaohu said in a low voice. But Li Jian didn't understand, but he still sat down. Ming Qing looked at Zhang Xiaohu and said with a smile, Zhang Xiaohu, it's too late to wake up now. You could be the leader for a few more days. He laughed and walked out of the meeting hall. Ding Chao Du Feng passed down my order. Reinforce the defense outside the Misty Mountain Villa. No one is allowed to leave the Misty Mountain Villa, and no news is allowed to spread from here. When Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng walked out of the meeting hall, Zhang Xiaohu immediately ordered them. Yes, your subordinates will personally take the shift. Du Feng and Ding Chao looked at Zhang Xiaohu with admiration as they replied in a clean and efficient manner. Martial Ancestor Li, Martial Ancestor Lu, Master. You could talk to Brother Chu first. I'll be right back. Zhang Xiaohu didn't dare to delay and stood up. Leader, this is... Chu Yunfei was surprised by Zhang Xiaohu's courage and asked curiously. Brother Chu, I've embarrassed myself in front of you. My Misty School is still under the control of the disciples of the Fragrance Cult. I'm the leader in name only. Perhaps it's time to deal with it. Sit down and talk to your martial uncles and martial ancestors. Tell them about martial ancestor whose situation. I'm sure martial ancestor Li has been wanting to ask about it for a long time. As Zhang Xiaohu spoke, he hurriedly walked out of the meeting hall. However, in the time it took to eat a meal, so many changes had happened in the meeting hall. Even though Li Jian had experienced a lot of things, he couldn't understand what Zhang Xiaohu was thinking. He could only think about how to deal with it tonight. Therefore, he didn't pay much attention to Chu Yunfei's words. After Zhang Xiaohu left the meeting hall, he immediately rode a horse and rushed to Huanxi Mountain Villa. He was afraid that if he was late, Zhang Xiaohua would disappear. Fortunately, as soon as he entered the small courtyard, he heard the laughter in the hall. Wasn't Zhang Xiaohua's voice among them? Seeing Zhang Xiaohu rushing over, Zhang Xiaohua asked curiously, Didn't your Misty School have a happy occasion? How come it's over so quickly? Zhang Xiaohu walked to Zhang Xiaohua in a few steps, grabbed her and whispered, Come with me quickly. I have something important to do. Guo Sufei and the others saw Zhang Xiaohu rushing in and directly looking for Zhang Xiaohua without greeting them. They knew that Zhang Xiaohu was anxious and hurriedly said, Xiaohua, go quickly. Don't make things difficult for your second brother. Zhang Xiaohua nodded and followed Zhang Xiaohu to her house. Zhang Xiaohu immediately asked, Do you still have any leftover soul-absorbing pills? Yes, I still have some left. Didn't I just test a few in the morning? Zhang Xiaohua nodded. That's good. Zhang Xiaohu said with a happy face. Go now and let Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng take the soul-absorbing pills like the disciples of the Righteous Alliance in the morning. What's wrong? Second brother, isn't it? Zhang Xiaohua still wanted to ask, but Zhang Xiaohu pushed her and said, There's so many other people first. If you don't want Abbess Jingyi to take your second brother's life, quickly settle these two people. All right. Seeing that Ming Qing and Gao Kunheng were already threatening Zhang Xiaohu's life, Zhang Xiaohua didn't ask any more questions and turned to leave. After Zhang Xiaohua left, Zhang Xiaohu put his hands behind his back and paced back and forth in the house. After pacing back and forth a few times, he still couldn't calm down. Thus, he made up his mind and closed his eyes to calm down. Then he started practicing the Arhut fist technique in the house. Just like in a Lotus Flower Escort Agency's house, he practiced every move meticulously. Strangely enough, when he was halfway through practicing the Six Harmonies fist technique, Zhang Xiaohu's anxious mood slowly calmed down, and he put all his energy into practicing the Six Harmonies fist technique. After practicing for an unknown period of time, a voice sounded from behind him. Second brother's Six Harmonies fist technique has a deep understanding of the samadhi. You have improved quite a bit compared to when you were at the Lotus Flower Escort Agency. Yes, the fist doesn't leave the hand, and the song doesn't leave the mouth. Only with more practice can there be results. Zhang Xiaohu replied. After finishing the last few moves, he asked, "How is it? Did you manage to settle the matter?" "Ha ha," Zhang Xiaohua said softly. "Of course it was easy." Seeing Zhang Xiaohu's relieved expression, he said, "When I saw the two of them, they were discussing how to report this matter to Abbess Jing. He, second brother, I didn't expect you to have such guts. If I didn't have the soul-absorbing pill, I'm afraid this matter would have been reported to Abbess Jing. Zhang Xiaohu said self-deprecatingly. How would I have the guts? It's just that after seeing the effects of the soul-absorbing pill in your hands, I was emboldened. These two people would have to be dealt with sooner or later, so I might as well do it earlier. Second brother is right. Since Elder who sent people here, they might be back soon. Having a disciple of the incense cult in the Misty School is like having a fishbone stuck in one's throat. No one would be comfortable with it. However, with the changes in Yaoshan, maybe Abbess Jing, you will come as well. I just don't know if the soul-absorbing pill can fool Abbess Jing's eyes. It's okay, Xiaohua. If Abbess Jing sees any flaws, I will bear all the responsibility. I definitely won't implicate you. Please vote monthly, recommend, bookmark, and tip. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote monthly and recommend at Chidian. Come. Chapter 11:07. Hearing Zhang Xiaohu's words, Zhang Xiaohua's heart warmed. He smiled proudly and said, "Second brother, you've underestimated your brother. You just stepped onto the path of immortality, but I've been cultivating for a long time." Zhang Xiaohu rolled his eyes at him and said, "Even if you're stronger than me, you've only been cultivating for a few years. Nanjing, he has been immersed in the path of immortality for decades. How can you be her opponent?" Then he sighed and said, "Before entering the path of immortality, I couldn't see the difference between you and me. But when I saw the shadow of the path of immortality, ran away from me long ago. You've only been cultivating for a few years, but you already make me feel irresistible. Do I still need to tell you how powerful Nanjing is?" Zhang Xiaohua suddenly understood. He thought for a while and said with a smile, "The path of immortality. Oh, you can't just talk about cultivation. Everything in this world has to be done step by step. Only then can you reap the rewards. As the saying goes, a drop of sweat is a reward. However, if it's like this, people can only rely on hard work. The so-called intelligence and wisdom can't count. There are many things that require hard work, but at the same time, skill, comprehension, and opportunity are also important. Needless to say about skill and comprehension, second brother also understood this when he was practicing martial arts. Just the 6 complementary fists alone will make a difference between others and you. And in the path of immortality, what's most important is fate. For example, second brother, you only needed to cow down 9 times to enter the path of immortality. But what about me? That's a lot of hard work. Can't you tell others about the hardships involved? Even if it was very hard for me, now that I think about it, there were many opportunities and coincidences. If it weren't for that, I would still be a servant in Huanxi Manor. Of course, I don't know about the inheritance of the incense cult, but looking at the 3rd floor of your Misty School's inheritance pavilion, you should know how difficult it is to step onto the path of immortality. Stepping onto the path of immortality is such a difficult thing for ordinary people. But for you, you passed in a flash. Then what about the path of immortality? Aren't there many opportunities in it? Zhang Xiaohu was enlightened and nodded slightly. I kind of understand now. You mean that you've had a lot of opportunities. Although you've only been cultivating for a few years, your cultivation is no weaker than Abbess Jingyi's? Zhang Xiaohua said with a smile, "Fighting in the immortal Tao is different from fighting in the martial Tao. Cultivation is one aspect, magic tools are another, and fighting strategy is a big help. That's why Abbess Jingyi and I don't fight, so I can't say who's stronger and who's weaker. But one thing I'm sure of is that Abbess Jing, you won't be able to catch me. And that's good. Zhang Xiaohu breathed a sigh of relief. I always thought that you were far inferior to Abbess Jing Yi. Hee hee. That's because he hit it well. Zhang Xiaohua's tail began to stick up. Now that the qi of heaven and earth is scarce, Nanjing Yi and the others can achieve great success by relying on the qi of heaven and earth. They can only rely on a limited number of primordial stones. How high can their cultivation be? Primordial stones? Zhang Xiaohu asked curiously, what's that? There's no need to rush to find out. Second brother, let me ask you, how's your cultivation of the broken blade force and the Kuan Peng transformation? Zhang Xiaohu said with a bitter face, I've already understood the broken blade force. It's just how to convert the inner strength of the martial Dao into the immortal Dao's true qi and use the martial Dao's true qi. You said it yourself that I only need to know how to use true qi. I've already done that, but the Kuan Peng transformation is a bit troublesome. When I released my perception, I could only sense strands of true qi around me. When I guided those strands of true qi into my meridians, I couldn't feel anything at all. Then what's next? How do you refine the true qi after it enters your body? Didn't I tell you to make the same assumptions as the martial Dao? Do you feel like you've already guided the true qi into your meridians? I've tried, but it's like punching the air. There's no force behind it. I can't refine true qi at all. Oh, Zhang Xiaohua nodded, then asked again, then, have you tried to refine the true qi in your dantian? Zhang Xiaohu shook his head. I don't know how to refine it at all. How can I refine Founder Yang's true qi? Sigh. Zhang Xiaohua let out a long sigh, her face full of bitterness. Zhang Xiaohu was shocked. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Yes, there's a problem. A big problem. Zhang Xiaohua sighed. My life is really bitter. When I entered the immortal Dao, I had to figure everything out myself. I'm not like you. You only have to tell me, and I can explain it to you and point you in the right direction. Having a master is really good. Hearing this, Zhang Xiaohu finally felt relieved. He curled his lips. How about I call you master too? Don't. Zhang Xiaohua quickly waved her hand. If you call me that, won't mother beat me? As she spoke, she took out a small primordial stone and handed it over. This is the primordial stone. Isn't this a small stone? Is it the thing you put in the water tank? Zhang Xiaohu was curious. Then he realized. So, the spring water that father and mother drink has the primordial qi of heaven and earth? No wonder mother and father, and Mr. Liu don't look old at all these years. They even look a few years younger. Yes. Zhang Xiaohua smiled and explained what the primordial stone was. Then she lowered her voice and told Zhang Xiaohu how to absorb the primordial qi from the primordial stone. Zhang Xiaohu was very happy. With this primordial stone, he didn't need to absorb the primordial qi of heaven and earth into his body. Then the effect of his cultivation would be very different. At this time, he also understood what Zhang Xiaohua meant by opportunity and cultivation. Also, second brother, the immortal Dao true qi is different from the martial Dao inner force. You haven't refined your own true qi in your meridians, so don't show your immortal Dao cultivation for the time being. Okay. I know what to do. Zhang Xiaohu nodded. All right. Second brother, go do what you need to do. I'm also going to go refine pills. Zhang Xiaohua stood up and stretched with a smile. Thank you for your hard work, Xiaohua. Zhang Xiaohu looked at his little brother, who never let him say thank you. But he still said the word, thank you. Zhang Xiaohua waved her hand and said, it's nothing. I have nothing to do anyway, so why don't I refine pills for fun? Gosh, Zhang Xiaohu was very jealous for no reason. Let's not talk about Zhang Xiaohua treating refining pills as a game. And let's not talk about Zhang Xiaohu's discussion with Chu Yunfei. Thousands of miles away in the Dalan Temple, because of the Yaoshan Immortal Abode's matter, Abbot Changgung brought Great Master Changgung, Great Master Changxing, and a group of elites to Yaoshan Immortal Abode. Only Great Master Changhui of the Great Wisdom Hall was left to guard the temple. Great Master Changhui was a thin, old monk. His eyebrows and beard were only white. At this time, He was sitting in the great wisdom hall, carefully reciting Buddhist scriptures. A burst of hurried footsteps sounded. A young monk hurriedly ran in with a face full of fear. "Great master! Great master!" The moment the monk entered the courtyard, he shouted. Great Master Chang Hui frowned slightly, but his face remained benevolent. When the monk entered the room, he reprimanded Yuan Qing. As a Buddhist disciple, a tranquil mind is the foundation. How can you achieve greatness if you are so impetuous? But Yuan Qing wanted to defend himself, but Great Master Chang Hui flicked his sleeve and said, "Stand by the side and breathe carefully. Let me finish reading this scripture first." But, yes, Great Master. Yuan Qing stopped his pointless argument and wiped the sweat from his forehead. He pressed his palms together and lowered his head to look at the ground. His rapidly heaving chest gradually calmed down. Seeing how obedient Yuan Qing was, the corners of Grandmaster Zhang Hui's mouth curled up into a smile. He sat down steadily and flipped through the scriptures. After half a cup of tea's time, Grandmaster Zhang Hui finally raised his head and slowly said, "Is there anything I can help you with?" Yuan Qing? "Great Master, there's a change in the pagoda forest." The origin returning pagoda suddenly emitted a bright light. Yuan Qing seemed to have already prepared his words. His answer was simple and clear. What? The origin returning pagoda emitted a bright light. Great Master Chang Hui's expression changed drastically. He reprimanded, "Why didn't you inform me of such an important matter earlier?" However, before he could finish his sentence, Great Master Chang Hui stood up and used his top-notch qigong to cross the river on a reed. His figure was like a fluttering bamboo leaf. With a whoosh, he dashed out, leaving only an afterimage in front of Yuan Qing's eyes. Yuan Qing was clearly stunned by Great Master Chang Hui's qigong. After a while, he regained his senses and praised in admiration, as expected of a great master. "Your qigong is unparalleled. Even your ability to remain calm is something I can't compare to." With that, Great Master Chang Hui left the Wisdom Hall. His figure flashed as he headed straight for the temple's entrance. However, before he could reach the temple's entrance, he saw a faint Buddhist glow rising into the sky from the pagoda forest behind the Dalan Temple. In the Dalan Temple, the monks all had different expressions. Some were surprised, some were delighted, and some were terrified and sad. Although their moods were different, they all left their meditation areas and swarmed towards the temple's entrance. Needless to say, they all wanted to see the strange situation in the pagoda forest. Great Master Chang Hui lagged behind. Seeing this, Great Master Chang Hui couldn't help but feel a little angry. Just as he was about to reprimand Yuan Qing, he looked up and saw many bald heads gathering outside the temple. In the time it took Yuan Qing to report to him, many of his disciples had already arrived at the pagoda forest. Therefore, he couldn't be bothered to ask his disciples to turn back. He took a deep breath and circulated his inner strength, speeding up his pace. When he arrived at the pagoda forest, he couldn't help but gasp. He saw the origin returning pagoda, which was built against the mountain, emitting a faint Buddhist glow that illuminated the surroundings. The Buddhist glow was divided into 9 colors, and in each color, there were countless fairies, Buddhas, halls, lotus flowers, yikshas, and other objects. These images rippled with the colors as they swayed slightly. They appeared lifelike, as though they were about to shed their colors. Looking up into the sky, at the top of the origin returning pagoda, there were flames that soared into the sky like a torch burning 1,000 feet in the air. In the flames, there were countless people and objects. These people and objects were constantly changing, like an independent Buddhist kingdom that was displaying the incomparable power of the Buddhist Dharma. Please cast a monthly vote, a recommendation vote, a bookmark, and a tip. If you like this work, you are welcome to cast a recommendation vote or a monthly vote at Chidian. Come. Chapter 1108. Amitba. Excellent, excellent. Seeing this, Master Zhang Hui clasped his hands together and bowed his head, secretly praising, Buddhism is boundless. Zhang Hui, are you in the temple? Where are Changsheng and the others? A loud voice came from the upper left side of Master Zhang Hui. Ah, Master Yuan Dao? Master Zhang Hui turned his head and saw a monk who was much thinner than him floating in the air. He couldn't help but exclaim. However, when he looked behind him and saw two other old monks floating in the air, he was even more shocked. Master Yuan Ming, Master Yuan Wu, you have all come out? How can we not know about the changes in the Guiyuan Tower? How can we hide and cultivate peacefully? A monk's voice was a little hoarse. Where is Changsheng? Is he not in the temple? Yes, Master Yuan Ming. Abbot Changsheng left the temple long ago with junior brother Changing and senior brother Changxing, as well as a group of disciples in the temple. Such a big commotion? What are they doing there? Master Yuan Wu, according to the disciples' report, a seven-colored radiance has appeared in Yao Mountain recently. It's rumored that an immortal treasure has appeared. Abbot Changsheng brought the disciples to investigate. An immortal treasure? Master Yuan Wu frowned and nodded slightly. Then we should go and take a look. Don't let that thing fall into the hands of others. Yes, Abbot Changxing said so too. That's why he let the disciples stay in the temple while he brought the elites of the temple to Yao Mountain. He wants to bring the immortal treasure back to the Dalan Temple and keep it by Buddha's side. Master Yuan Wu ignored him and looked at Yuan Ming and Yuan Dao. The three of them were expressionless. Master Yuan Wu, this Guiyuan Tower. After waiting for a while and looking at the Buddhist radiance for a while, Master Zhang Hui probed, according to the records in the temple, the Dalan Temple has a teaching. The appearance of the Buddhist radiance in the Guiyuan Tower is a Guiyuan tribulation. All accomplished monks will have to face this tribulation. I wonder, how will the Dalan Temple deal with this? Master Yuan Dao was expressionless. He looked at the soaring radiance and the Buddhist kingdom in the radiance and said, how will we deal with it? We've already dealt with it. What else can we do? This. Grandmaster Zhang Hui was slightly taken aback, but he immediately understood. He put his palms together and chanted, this disciple understands. Excellent, excellent. As he spoke, the Buddhist light on the origin returning tower shone brightly, as if it was about to burn. In the blink of an eye, a pitch-black fog abruptly appeared from the bottom of the Buddhist light. The moment the black fog appeared, it turned into a black thread that wrapped around the bottom of the Buddhist light. Then, they saw the black line move upwards, bit by bit, gradually engulfing the Buddha's flame. The originally 9-colored light slowly turned black. When the entire Buddha's light was dyed black, the surroundings of the pagoda forest became gloomy. The monks could not help but shrink their necks. After the Buddhist light turned black, its shape began to change. After a while, it gradually stabilized. From afar, it looked like a black lotus. Origin returning tribulation. This is the origin returning tribulation. Master Yuan Dao muttered. Although the Buddhist Dharma is boundless, it doesn't transcend those who are not fated. Only by facing the tribulation with one's body can one cultivate the boundless tribulation and transcend the boundless. That's right. Buddha is merciful. He faced the tribulation with his body and transformed into a Buddhist lotus. He underwent nirvana with the demonic tribulation, bathing in the demonic flames to be reborn. This is the origin returning tribulation. The black fire lotus verified Master Yuan Dao's mutterings. With a few swaying motions, it suddenly converged. The origin returning tower returned to its original appearance. The surrounding sky and white mountains also returned to their original colors. Master Zhang Hui had only read the manuals and had never seen it before. At that moment, he was dumbfounded by what he saw. When he saw such a mesmerizing scene, he could not help but exclaim. Following that, he rubbed his eyes in disbelief and exclaimed again. This was because in his eyes, the origin returning tower seemed to have suffered damage to its yuan qi. It looked like a person a lot more dispirited. How is this possible? Master Jean Hui was about to take a closer look when he saw a figure transform from behind the origin returning tower and fly straight towards them. Who? Who is this? Master Jean Hui was completely dumbfounded. Today was truly an eye-opener for him. There was actually a monk with a cultivation level higher than Master Yuandao and company. Of course, the figure quickly arrived in front of him. It was a bald monk. Could it be the one from the origin returning tower? Master Jean Hui's heart skipped a beat. However, when he saw the monk's face gradually turn clear, Master Jean Hui could not help but feel puzzled. Why? Why does this old monk look so familiar? But where have I seen him before? Not only was Master Jean Hui puzzled, all the monks in the Dalan Temple were dumbfounded. Only Master Yuandao, Master Yuan Ming, and Master Yuan Wu, who were floating in midair, showed reverence when they saw the old monk. They conjured their dermic powers and went forward to welcome him. When they came close, they pressed their palms together and bowed. Greetings, Master Heavenly Dipper. Master Heavenly Dipper. He is Master Heavenly Dipper. Master Jean Hui let out a sound from the bottom of his heart. The expression on his face was immediately replaced by reverence and desire. It was as if he had seen a figure from a dream. Master Jean Hui could not help but feel reverence for him. Master Heavenly Dipper was 3 generations older than Master Jean Hui, and was also from the Prajna Hall. He was a famous figure in the pugilistic world 100 years ago. His cultivation in the way of immortality was comparable to the previous Sakura of the Tenryu sect. In the stories of the Dalan Temple 100 years ago, Master Heavenly Dipper was almost always the main character. His limelight completely overshadowed the abbot of his generation. He was almost the representative of the Dalan Temple. 100 years ago, the pugilistic world might not know who the abbot of the Dalan Temple was, but it was impossible not to know the name of Master Heavenly Dipper from the Prajna Hall. However, later on, Heavenly Dipper killed his way to the Tenryu sect alone and wanted to fight with the leader of the Tenryu sect, Sakura, to see who was the most powerful person in the world. However, Heavenly Dipper never returned. No one in the pugilistic world knew the result of that battle, and no one knew who was the most powerful person in the world. The Tenryu sect also did not announce the result of that battle. However, not long after, the Tenryu sect ceased all activities in the pugilistic world and lost a lot of their arrogance. Master Jean Hui grew up listening to the legends of Master Heavenly Dipper. Now that he saw the real person, how could he not be shocked? An all-powerful figure 100 years ago had actually survived until now. Master Heavenly Dipper descended to the same height as Master Yuandao and the rest. He also bowed slightly and said in a low voice, "Have you seen the origin returning tribulation? This disciple has seen it. Please enlighten me." Master Heavenly Dipper shook his head. "This old monk has nothing to enlighten you on. The last origin returning tribulation was 100 years ago. This old monk's cultivation is not high, so I did not go deep into the pugilistic world to face the tribulation. The Dalan Temple did not have many changes, and the pugilistic world did not have any big waves. This is the first time this old monk has seen it, just like all of you." Then he turned to look at the origin returning tower and said, "This old monk felt the change in the chi of heaven and earth and rushed over immediately. I saw the whole process of the origin returning tribulation, but the origin returning tower is a space of its own. Divine sense cannot enter, so this old monk also does not know what happened inside. Then, how should we face the tribulation?" Master Yuan Ming asked carefully. "Didn't Changsheng already go out? Yao Mountain has a magical treasure of the immortal Tao, causing the entire pugilistic world to be in an uproar. This is the place where we face the tribulation. We will follow Master's instructions and leave the temple to search for Marshal Nephew Changsheng. You all go first. This old monk will go when the time is right." After Master Heavenly Dipper finished speaking, he flew in front of Master Jean Hui and said with a smile, "Jean Hui, you bear the heavy responsibility of guarding the temple, so you don't have to face the tribulation. Take care of yourself." "Yes." Master Jean Hui bowed and lowered his head. When he looked up, Master Heavenly Dipper had already flown into the Dahlin Temple in the direction of the Sutra Depository. Master Jean Hui finally remembered. Wasn't Master Heavenly Dipper the old monk who swept the floor of the Sutra Depository? Ever since he was young, he had been sweeping the floor of the Sutra Depository. It's all right, Master Jean Hui recalled. Although he was surprised by Master Heavenly Dipper in the Sutra Depository, he had always been respectful and did not show any disrespect. Master Yuan Dao, Master Yuan Ming, and Master Yun Wu looked at each other and lowered their heads, saying, Martial Nephew Jean Hui will leave the Dahlin Temple to you. Discipline your disciples and take care of yourself. Understand. Master Jean Hui pressed his palms together and bowed. I wish the three of you a speedy return from the tribulation. Master Yuan Dao and the others nodded slightly. With a flick of their sleeves, they floated into the air and gradually disappeared into the distance. Seeing the three masters' backs disappear, Master Jean Hui waved his hand and shouted, Disciples, return to the temple immediately. Without my permission, you are not to leave the temple. Yes, the disciples of the Dahlin Temple finally heaved a sigh of relief. They did not know about the origin returning tribulation, so their eyes were filled with curiosity and passion. In just a moment, the Dahlin Temple's forest of pagodas returned to the silence that had remained unchanged for tens of thousands of years. Not a single monk remained in the Dahlin Temple. However, what remained unchanged was the surface. What about the inside of the forest of pagodas? What about the inside of the origin returning tower? Who would know? Perhaps the cold wind that had remained unchanged for tens of thousands of years and the setting sun that had remained unchanged since time immemorial would reveal everything that no one knew. Outside Pingyang City, in the meeting hall of the Ethereal Heights, Chu Yunfei was telling Li Jian and the others about the actions of the young disciples of the Misty School led by Hu Yuni over the past few years. Just then, he saw Zhang Xiaohu walk in with a relaxed expression. Sect leader Zhang, Chu Yunfei, stood up politely. When Li Jian and the others heard this, they also turned around and hurriedly stood up. When Wenhai took a few steps forward and asked with concern, How is it? Xiaohu, what did we do? While Zhang Xiaohu was away, when Wenhai thought of all the possible solutions, they could only silence them by killing them. However, putting aside the fact that Zhang Xiaohu's martial arts were not good enough, even if they killed the two of them, how would the disciples of the Misty School be able to deal with the disciples of the Fragrance Cult who were on par with them in terms of strength? The young disciples of the Misty School and the older generation of disciples who had recovered some of their martial arts were only slightly stronger than the disciples of the Fragrance Cult. Seeing his master's concern, Zhang Xiaohu smiled and said, Don't worry, master. Don't worry. Please vote for me. Please add me to your collection. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.